I think the Opera is probably the biggest issue, you know, like
Could you buy Wrinkle from Nip?
Could you buy Simple from Navi?
Imagine Simple back to Liquid.
Are you tired of your boring old skins? Head to Trade It and trade them for exciting new ones within seconds. With 24/7 support, massive inventory, free giveaways, and low fees. Trade It is the highest rated trading platform in the market. What are you waiting for? Start trading today for a $5 bonus, only on Trade It.
But one thing remains the same: victories with 1xBet.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
HLTV Confirmed 1xBet. Remember to gamble responsibly. Trade@.gg if you're in the marketplace for some skins. 21st of May 2024. It's a Tuesday. It's International Tea Day. And right now on Twitter, the people are spilling the tea about Zero Tenacity. Striker, are they cheating?
Wow. Putting me on the spot right away. I will say I can neither confirm or deny.
And I don't think anyone can.
For legal reasons.
But this is it. Like these guys, so the guys in that team, there's a few of these names. They're in the fucking warm-up server DM all the time. Right now, Bleed guys are tweeting out pictures of radars and shit. They just beat Bleed 2-0. There's accusations. Neofrag's getting in the mix. Prof's been on the phone to the president asking questions. When will we get answers, Prof?
3 to 5 business days. I was promised the exact truth on this matter. I mean, just the fact that Kassad is leading a charge against mainly Serbian team, his countrymen. This means something. He wouldn't put it out there just for a loss.
He just hates everybody now, man. He's not a patriot, clearly.
I mean, he did wish for what was something about not believing in Nico at the major or G2. I know that caused some stir in the region, in the regional community. So I don't know, man.
Can't say anything about your own, man.
But what's going like? Don't we know better than to be throwing around wild accusations on the internet?
It's generally not a great idea, yeah. Especially like if you're the one on the losing side, like just after the match, it's like it's not very good practice. You just look salty as fuck. Regardless, they don't have proof. Like, what can you do?
Pretty decent streak, like in this regional series. So they beat 3D Max, they beat Bait, Metasport, and now Bleed. Like that's okay. That's my intention.
Yeah,
for sure. There are some other teams that had more sus runs, I would say, and some more sus results. I don't know, have not watched, can't really comment on that, but it's interesting at least.
But I
mean, you're always.
I have to say, I just want to say, like these guys and this team has been around for pretty long. Yeah. Like this group of people has been playing together for like I want to say 2 years. So nothing too impossible from that point of view that they would like get some wins.
Some days your opponent's just having a better day, Striker.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say that, like, I think I don't remember who said this, but I think it was on this show that like at some point, like if you're losing too much, you're going to be called a fixer, and then if you're starting winning, you're going to be called like if you're winning a lot online, you're going to be called Raider hack or whatever. Like it's just both ways, right? Unless you have some concrete proof, and
unfortunately,
all you can do is just throw accusations around, right?
Unfortunately, though, sometimes it is true.
Look, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Like that's the point. Like you can't know, you know. Then saying that about somebody unless you're sure, then that's rough.
All right, I just wanted to start there because that was what was going on in the Twitter sphere, and we like to keep our finger on the pulse around here.
I would just say that Neofrag said that if this Nemanja guy is not cheating, he will run a marathon. So I'll just call him out for it now. And if it turns out he indeed wasn't cheating, although how do you prove that somebody didn't do something? I will hold Neofrag to it and tell him
at least a half marathon. We'll give him a half marathon.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go there and personally, man.
I will personally record Neofrag.
Will you run with him to record as well?
You might have to get Mako on the bike, mate.
Huh?
Get Mako on the bike going around.
Yeah,
That'd probably be the only way.
Either that or a scooter. You know, I'm not running.
Yeah, fuck that, mate. Running's tough. All right. Listen, we are 3.5 men. Lucas makes up half, and that's not because he's a boy. It's just he doesn't really say a lot. You know, he sits here, he presses his buttons, and he has a good time. Now, gentlemen, I wanted to start off today's episode not with like a litmus test, nothing official, no scientific experiments, no Bunsen burners. Do you guys know what a Bunsen burner is? Do you have that in science class? Yeah, and with beakers, all that good stuff. This isn't an official test. This is putting your finger up in the air, just gauging roughly which way you think the wind's blowing. How are things feeling? A bit of like a temperature check from your perspective of how Counter-Strike's going at the moment, like the game or scene or just in general. I know it's a very broad question, but it's meant to be broad. It's meant to kind of just invoke in you, are you content? Are you happy? Are things going in the right way? Are there things that you think are going in the wrong way? What are we feeling? I know you probably need a few minutes to mull it over.
I'll start like just the fact that EPL is done makes me just a breath of fresh air.
Just like spring.
Just saying that it might be connected to the sun being outside, which also just like, you know, levels up the oxytocin and all of these other nice chemicals in my brain. But I watched some Bet Boom. That was nice. I think generally the game is in a decent spot in terms of like the competitive side. It's not like there's any parts of the game that's like, this makes it unwatchable, you know, pro games unwatchable at least. Honestly, just watching some of these roster changes in the states of some teams, just walking back to this podcast, I was thinking so many bad roster moves in the previous, like, what's it called? Yeah, between the seasons and everything that set us up for so many more roster changes and kind of just a ruined potential in some situations. And I know we spoke about it before, but just looking back to like heroic events that we had last season and what we have now is just kind of sad, honestly. And a lot of changes and like where Falcons are, it just seems like a lot of these teams made changes and for no one's
just
benefit.
To get worse, yeah.
No one's benefit. Everyone lost. Like whoever got the money won, I guess. But you know, the teams didn't really get better. There's a lot of resetting and lowering the level of the team in hopes of getting better, but unfortunately, a lot of them just didn't. So that's kind of where I'm conflicted. On the other hand, there's a lot of pretty good top teams with like Spirit, FaZe, I would say, and MOUZ, obviously, that have pretty solid level. So I think it's a balance, you know.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, right? Like you were labeling it there, and the way that it was felt for most of that was it's kind of weak. But I think we have some strong teams, but we have some teams who could be stronger. Is that? I guess that's probably the sentiment. There's a few teams that have made some poor upgrades, or I guess they're not even upgrades. So from I guess the competitive angle, I don't have. I think like it's decently competitive. I don't know when we go into half of these events who's going to win. You know, we have favorites, which is nice, but it's difficult to say we just have a dominant team. And I think gone are the days that we will have teams being as dominant as what we did back if we were just to reference Astralis. I think the game, there's still a couple of little teething issues, right? And there's definitely some quality of life stuff for the players. And I don't mean the professional players. I mean the general players, the people who play for fun. And maybe the people who even use the Valve matchmaking services and everything like that. So some stuff could definitely get tweaked along those lines. But I think in general, I'm pretty content at the moment. I think things are good. They're trending in the right direction. I can't wait for this year to be over, not because I want to get closer to the grave, but because I want partner leagues to get closer to the grave. Like I also want next year to start where we'll have the 2 majors at the end of each season. I know we'll have that with Shanghai this year, but we're going to go through some weirdness with the close of this year around these partner leagues and whatnot. But overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot. You know, I can't really think of anything to complain of. What do you think?
There's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah. What about you, Striker?
I mean, speaking of 2025, who the fuck knows? To be honest, like I feel like the first year of the non-partnered system is going to be a bit of a chaos without anybody knowing
it's an
what exactly to do
exciting
about
mess, bro.
Of course, like I am looking forward to it because it's also brings some challenges to us and all that stuff. Like from all kinds of perspectives, from the competitive side, from our side, like how we're going to deal with covering all this stuff. You know, like we've been here before, but maybe not to the same degree, like where we have an event lasting 2 weeks, literally every 2 weeks. Like from that perspective, like things are going to be a little bit different. Like people compare it to 2018, but it's not necessarily going to be the same, even though like the amount of CS is probably going to be very similar. That we're going to see like played between top teams. You know, people will have to figure out what are we going to skip, what do we have to play, because we're going to have to get invites, all this stuff. You know, there's a lot of exciting challenges that come from that. Right now, I don't want to think about it too much because we still have 7 months before we get there.
Come on, Striker, man. Start thinking about it.
So all I'm doing is like figuring out how to fix my migraines before we get there. That's my plan at the moment, personally.
You drinking enough water?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm
done. That's all I got. Trying. Let's say some unconfirmed medicine at the moment, and it's
unconfirmed medicine.
Wow, that sounds sus. Okay. That sounds sus.
All right. No, well, it's medicinal in a lot of parts of the world.
You know, Czech Republic has very lax laws about some of these things, so you know, it's
more like we don't have them. That's more like the
laws
situation. No, about like whatever weed and stuff like that. So.
Oh, okay. Well, in Malta here, it's like you can get medicinal and there's recreational clubs, but all of the clubs, they're already at maximum capacity. So you can't get
Who would have thought, man? Yeah. Who would have thought?
Do these clubs have competitions? They compete
I think there's only like 3 or 4 clubs at the moment. So there's only like 1,000.
Well, there's an opportunity for you there, Chad.
To start a club.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm never home. You think I could grow any plants here? We'd have a really rough time. They'd be dead every time I come back from flying away.
But you have enough space, man. Like people can just use that, and you can just get a guy to do it for you.
That's true. I do have plenty of space here.
What a business idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll leave Counter-Strike and I'll start.
It's all about the community. It's the friends you make along the way, not about what you do.
I'll make a couple of HLTV users happy. They were having a real crack at me in the last week. They're fucking their whole thread. Like, there's always sponge come here, isn't it? It's never anything.
I was just going to ask you about that because I saw one of those like yesterday or something like that. That there was like a classic like sponge come here.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
It worked.
Oh, yeah,
you must have.
I haven't posted in it, mate.
Oh,
I have to say,
I didn't go back.
I have to say there was a maniac come here during I think Pro League, and it was amazing because there was some guy. It was a positive thread, but there was one guy inside that was like, as always, like, oh, maniac's bald spot makes me uncomfortable, blah blah. And he made this comment is like, my bald spot can't hurt you. Don't allow it to have so much power over you. And I thought that was fucking amazing. That was a great response.
And people are insane on the forums. It's fucking crazy. Just like, mate, you should introduce like more like it's Facebook or Instagram integration into the HLTV forum so I can see their fucking faces when they're just putting out their absolute bullshit.
But that's not going to happen because they're going to stop once that happens. So that's
honestly
funny that.
Back in my forum days 20 years ago or so, my favorite thing was just like when someone posts something about you, just like post their picture as a reply and just move on. That's like the ultimate BM. And the worst thing is the person can look amazing, but you know everyone hates something about themselves and they'll see that. And they think you know what it is, but you don't know what it is. And you just post it and walk away and that's it.
Pretty nice.
It works.
What do you hate about yourself?
Can't say.
Really?
I'm going to factory reset after Dallas. I'm buzzing my head and getting rid of the beard. I'm starting it's all going. It's gone after Dallas. You guys will probably see it when we do the. Oh wait, did we announce that show yet? I don't know if we did.
Yeah, well, we're doing one in Dallas.
Yeah,
that's
that one
almost sold out, and we'll do one during Blast, but it will be not open to pub. Like, you can't buy tickets for it. Let's just say that. So I don't know any other details that I can share now. Unfortunately, we couldn't make a fully open one. At least things didn't work out that way.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll talk more about that in the future, I'm sure. But yeah, the Dallas event, if people want tickets, they can find it's through Eventbrite, right? Yes. Eventbrite.com/e/HLTV. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to read out the URL. It's crazy long. Okay, so we put our finger up in the air. Everyone seems quite content. Nothing too crazy. There's nothing irking anybody. Nothing really sticking out like a sore thumb that we want to have some bitching and moaning about. Everyone's kind of cool.
I mean, when we go to the spirit part, that was my latest for Endeavor. But other than that, I'm good.
Okay, so let's do. Actually, okay, let's do the recent news and get into some of that. Play the bumper, Lucas. Hello, welcome to the recent news. Then I don't know. I guess I'd have some papers, and I could do as if I'm Ron Burgundy, or I could be Brick. He's pretty funny. That's a great movie, Anchorman. And I've always wanted to do the Anchorman scene where all the news crews show up and fight, but I wanted to do it with casters / analysts / hosts of different esports titles, but we're never all in the same place at once. But that would be epic if someone could make that happen.
It would be epic if we could do that with like different CS outlets, but all of them died. So unfortunately, it would just be like HLTV versus Dust2 versus another Dust2.
Yeah. That'd be incestuous as fuck, mate. How do you get past that?
A little bit.
I mean, it would be kind of hype though.
All right. Well, look, our first piece of news, we don't have a lot of recent news today, is to do with cadiaN and Liquid. And Liquid's been in a bit of a tumultuous time, if you don't mind me using that vernacular. And cadiaN has been rumored to be on the way out the door, or at least that being a discussion within the camp of Liquid. They're currently playing in CCT, the Global Finals, which is an online tournament. I guess the other big name in there is Eternal Fire and Astralis. They're probably the biggest names in that event in the playoffs at the moment. But for Liquid, since this roster formed under a team of that stature, results have been average, like for what you'd expect from an org like Liquid. Maybe below average.
I think definitely below average just because of the major, right? If they qualified for the major, you could say average, but because of the major thing, it's pretty rough.
Feels like they underestimated the value of they played in the
friendship?
Americas. Yeah, or they overestimated the power of friendship.
Probably that, considering.
Yeah, where do you guys fall on this news about cadiaN potentially being headed out the door?
I think it's a curious one just because of the whole, like, how this team started was like, we're a team, we're all brothers, we're crying about it, exactly, like all that stuff,
Kumbaya.
And it's like, obviously, like, hindsight is 2020, and you want to go back and look at it with like the context that you have today in mind. Obviously, it seems like things didn't go quite the way that they imagined at the beginning, and like the way that they set up this team, and like the fundamentals behind it and all that stuff. Seems like, if you don't get along, if you don't agree with the other person's views in Counter-Strike, it doesn't matter how good of a friend you are, you're still gonna grow into wanting some changes in the team, so that things start going your way a little bit more. You enjoy yourself on that team, because like that's just how things are in competition. Like, you can't just be friends, right?
Well, you could, but you're not going to win very much. It's nice if you can.
Well, yeah, but like
win.
if you only think of it that way, right? Like, it's always going to be a struggle if you start not living up to the expectations that you have. Like, that's the easiest thing to break friendships at some point, to be honest.
When I watch them play, it doesn't look like they're having much fun.
Yeah,
but losing's never very much fun.
No, but even lately, like, even though it's been an improvement on results, it still hasn't felt like the atmosphere is there. So that's kind of like the curious part as well. It just seems like there's some underlying thing over there.
I want to ask some questions to you guys, because the public sentiment that I read, and I stay out of speculating publicly on Twitter about things I literally have no idea about, for the most part. But there was a lot of public speculation that was like, well, you know, cadiaN took Heroic to such heights, like they got to let him run the team his way. Like, how is this happening? Like, there was a lot that's like, how are they letting this happen? Why are they going in this direction? Does Liquid strike you as an organization that would just get rid of cadiaN if there wasn't any valid reasons?
Well, that depends on the team, right? Like, I mean, like how much does the team agree with what cadiaN is doing? And like, obviously, you know, it doesn't always go your way. Like if you're the in-game leader, and cadiaN has been basically the prime example of that, and the team doesn't agree with, or at least the part of the team doesn't agree with what you're doing with the team, you know, like that's what cost them eventually a spot in Heroic. I mean, you can obviously talk about whether that was a good idea from Heroic to do, you know, considering how that all turned out. But, you know, just disagreements are going to happen in the organization at the end of the day. Like it's just going to have to be like, okay, do we want to side with the players? Do we want to side with whatever they think is the problem? You know, like it's just that's just how it's going to be.
Am I giving too much credit to Liquid's management, who have made a slew of bad decisions over the last year and a half?
I mean, do you think like the idea of this lineup was bad?
The idea of it was very exciting. I think the melding of a bunch of different players who have big personalities and tend to be quite extroverted people and have all played under good schools of different Counter-Strike coming together, and the potential that could have been unlocked. I think it was exciting. It's another team that falls into the Cloud9 basket of last year, coming together and being like, oh, fuck yeah, this thing could really like pay off. Maybe not to that same level of hype, but definitely exciting because of the names that were in there and what you thought would be possible. But it's clearly dysfunctional. And if there's any credence to these rumors about cadiaN going, then Liquid are in an awful lot of trouble, because not only do they have to replace an in-game leader, they have to replace an AWPer. And then at that point, that means one or two things. Someone else in the team picks up the in-game leadership role and you bring in an AWPer, or you're making more than just one change of cadiaN. Because it can't just be one change in this situation. There might have to be multiple. So I don't know. For me, it's kind of left this. Personally, if they're getting rid of cadiaN and this thing's only happened for, what are we talking now, 6 months? I think since the start of the year, it was all kind of fucked. Like they're playing in America. I was kind of under the impression this Liquid team was going to try and be like European based. Obviously, it didn't go that way. We had the two Canadians and a Brazilian, which made them American based.
But they also had to play all the qualifiers for the major and all that stuff.
They
that's
didn't
why they
keep
spent
enough
so
players.
much time. What?
They didn't keep enough players from the former roster,
but that's my point. Like at the beginning, they just didn't have a choice, right? They just wanted to blow it up and have an actual chance at a title contending team, rather than, you know, play up to the let's keep a course so that we keep a spot in the RMR. You know, like I didn't like that with a lot of other teams. So I kind of have a respect for what, I mean, Heroic, I guess, didn't have maybe so much of a say in that, because they actually lost, you know, they kicked cadiaN and then lost the other two guys who decided to kick cadiaN, you know. So for them, it wasn't necessarily the any other way. But I have respect for the teams that actually try to build a team that they want, rather than one that will get them furthest in the major qualification.
Yeah, I guess, again, like you said, hindsight being 2020, if you step back, there's always like a few. Like one of the things that I think made Heroic so good is because of the actual bond that they had as a team, and through the hardships that they went through. Whether we're talking about the Hunden situation, or I can see a little smirk there coming on your face, Prof. You don't think they went through hardships?
No. I'm smirking because like they had a bond, not because they, you know, did a team building and pushed the car from the sand, but because they actually created that bond through, you know, things that happen,
trials and tribulation.
Obviously you can like, you know, water, and you can add some fertilizer and stuff like this through, you know, psychological expert guy, but it's completely uncomparable to what Heroic had. Like it's from the start, even before all of the bullshit happened, cadiaN as a player had like so much to prove. Hunden as well. I think when the two of them came together with these like young guys trying to prove themselves, get over Astralis, who were like ripe for the taking at the time, who were like falling off. That whole trajectory was a very like unique thing that happened.
But you can also tell that maybe the bond wasn't as strong as we perhaps saw it for some time, because like you don't just decide to team up with a teammate and kick your in-game leader just overnight. You know, it's going to take some time before they realize this is enough, you know. So it's like there's two sides to that coin.
I mean, essentially the read is that like people didn't enjoy playing with cadiaN anymore, and it seems like people don't enjoy playing with cadiaN or Liquid either, because looking at it from the outside point of view, any podcast or whatever pundit out there would have said like Yakindar Skulls would be the guys first on the chopping ball.
I mean, Yakindar for sure. Like,
and
that's
Yakindar for sure.
One.
Yakindar for sure, considering how important his role is and how badly he was performing, right?
And how much he's getting paid, apparently. Like, I don't actually know the number, but like that's what people have been saying a lot.
And then like, you turn around and you're like, I think like obviously Yakindar played a bit better in the last few events, but I don't think that's anywhere near being like irreplaceable or not worthy of replacing if you have an opportunity. But then turning around and being like, no, actually we're changing the IGL, who's also the opper. That's a really big decision and a hard person to replace. Just as an IGL, they don't have an opper. None of these players that are on the team should be opping in any capacity. So
what about
you have a very...
I was gonna say, like, one way that you could at least partly solve this would be, Twist has spoken before about like potentially transitioning to in-game leading. I would hate it for this team because he's actually been the one that's been carrying them a lot of the time. He's been their best performer consistently, along with Naf. So to suddenly see him transition to that would be a disappointment for me, unless they got like some mega opera, that can just like replace that firepower. Like assuming that Twist loses some of that, But even like in the interview I did with him, like when he was making the switch from FaZe to Liquid, he was basically saying like, oh, like one day I could see myself like being coached by Kerrigan as the in-game leader, like basically like already speaking that way. Like that's something that he might be thinking about going forward, So like if it gets like in a way forced on him in this way, like I could see him making that transition, but at the same time, it's kind of early in his career.
Well, let's do this, because if we assume that the rumors are true and he's on the way out the door, but it's not done yet. Is there anything that can happen to them this season that salvages the team and it somehow gets reformed?
I don't know the inside vibe. Like, I don't know what it has been said or anything. I do think good results change things, obviously. Good performances change things. And honestly, like the way, not the way, but their schedule has been pretty difficult. Just to say is that they travel so much, like China, US, Europe, then US, Europe, all the time, back and forth. So it does really also take a toll on you when you're not playing well and you're not winning. So I want to say, for me, it's like a harsh call to kick someone already, to kick cadiaN at least, for considering like how hard it is to replace him. But I don't know. I think they need like kind of a miracle run, right? And that happened in the past with many players that saved themselves, including like famously Zipex on Astralis, right? So I think it's possible, but it's probably unlikely, unfortunately.
I would say that too. Like considering, especially like, okay, imagine that now, like especially when they still have a couple of events left to play. One of them is online, but they're still going to play in. Actually, is it 2? No, Dallas is the last one. So CCT now, the rest of the playoffs, and then Dallas. Like imagine playing through that for weeks, knowing that like they're already considering benching you and they're looking at other options and all that stuff. It's maybe not the same situation as like Zipex, who you'd say like, okay, this is a problem, fix it. Like otherwise we're gonna start looking at options. But at this point, it seems more like we already are, and like this is kind of where we think it's going to be heading. So I'm not even sure. Like they've already looked better, and there's no way that like these issues started cropping up now that the results actually are looking up. Like it's got to have been happening for a while that they have to be thinking this way, to remove the opping in game leader. By far like the guy who's combining the two most important positions on the team. Like that's such a massive hit to a lineup that's not going to happen overnight. So I feel like perhaps that already shows that these last couple of events have been a little bit of a honeymoon, or not a honeymoon, but in the sense of like lack of pressure on the team anymore. There's not that expectation of results and all that stuff, So like perhaps that's more where I'm coming from. I think that's it's already in the process rather than that they could be reversed.
Ed, what do you think if let's say they are removing cadiaN? What do they do actually?
I think they should blow the team up.
I do think it could be done just by also replacing Yakindar with an IGL.
I'd get rid of Skulls as well.
It's have like.
What do you lose? You don't lose anything. You didn't make the last major. What Skulls really brought? It's a waste of money. You gotta really just swallow the fact that you wasted a shitload of money. That's fine. Well,
and you're gonna have to blow up the entire system anyway, just because cadiaN's out, and then you have to get a new AWPer as well, who's gonna probably have a different style. So when new game leader comes in, new AWPer comes in, like you literally like there's nothing.
Who do you get?
None of the base is there anymore. Who
do you get? Like if you could keep Naf and Twists and take like Nerts and Kixen, and I don't know who you get as an AWP. Like I don't know.
I think the AWPer is probably the biggest issue. Like
could you buy Wrinkle from Nip?
Could you buy Simple from Navi?
Imagine Simple back to Liquid.
But that's talk about someone that's maybe not the nicest player to play with. Like imagine like you're not getting any. I don't know what cadiaN needs to be doing, because obviously cadiaN out to the media is like one of the nicest guys in the world, and obviously in teams he's not that nice. This is something I think we can pretty much presume is correct. But like, how big does that difference need to be for them to be like, let's play with Simple if this is the problem? Like for me, that's not good.
No, generally like anybody at the moment, I feel like Blade put it in a good way. Like there's no move that he can make, because like he needs some experience for people to see if he can do the same things that he could do in CSGO. Like he needs to showcase himself, but nobody will take a risk on him, and he probably costs too much to get. So like that's probably not happening.
Yeah, I don't know. To dial in on the question, I think getting rid of cadiaN, like if it's done, it's done, right? I don't know anything about the interpersonal like side of things.
Let's just put it like this: do we think it's a bad move
to get rid of cadiaN? Well, that's the thing. If it's coming from a position that the team can't play with him, and there's been a rift caused, then no, it's not a bad move. If we were just looking at the X's and the O's,
but the team can't play without him either. Like, what is the solution?
That's the thing. It's like you're doomed if you do, doomed if you don't, right? Because if we're taking into the fact that the mood's been soured so much, then it's fucked, right? But it's also fucked if he's gone, because they have to replace two players. That's why I'm saying just blow it up. I know that seems like like a terrible thing to do, but these guys at Liquid have just been trying to plug in different parts now. We had the whole Rainwaker Patsy situation, right? This isn't the first time we've seen them attempt an experiment like this. Now, obviously, those two names comparative to what we have now, actually, I guess Skulls could fall into a little bit more of a punt in the dark. Not as much of the dark as Rainwaker was, but still, like in my opinion, I would say blow it up. I think there's better places for players like Twist to go, Naf to go, maybe.
Can your cat go outside?
There's like I have the balcony blocked off, so like even neighbors.
I was worried there for a second.
The thing is, it can, no worries. The thing is, like there's like a balcony running all the way around the building. Like technically, you can like jump from not even jump, but like pass balcony through balcony. So I just had to block it off so my cat doesn't take a detour around the entire building.
How many fucking cats do you have? I can see 2 right now.
Two.
You only have 2?
Yeah.
Okay, then. Okay, all right. Fair enough.
There's a dog. No, that's not a cat. That's a dog.
That's a dog on the ground.
You can see, yes.
Okay, and then that's a cat on the chair.
Yeah, and the other cat, I guess, is outside because Prof just saw it.
All right, do we want to move on from the Liquid conversation? I'm sure we'll get more fallout after Dallas.
Yeah, I just think it's a really bad situation for Liquid. It's super bad. I don't know if people understand how bad it is.
Yes,
if you only knew how bad it was, the meme.
It's terrible. All right. From Dallas to Austin and every major we've been in, our heart is pumping for Counter-Strike. Shout out to anybody who knows that song that I just butchered right there.
What is that song?
I have no idea.
From Paris to Berlin and every disco I've been in. My heart is pumping for love.
I was at karaoke this weekend, and someone chose a song called Austin, and it was horrible, and I had no one knew what it was, so I'm double traumatized now.
You're double traumatized. I thought you said you were double trumped. I was like, all right, well, now we're getting into politics. But no, we're getting into America. Striker, you and Mira as like conjoined twins, or I don't know how you guys do it, but it has your name and his name on the headline that reads, Sources blast targets US or us, because there's no dot after the U and after the S. No, come on, guys. For 2025 Summer Major, which would be the first major of the season. And it's International Tea Day, so you got to spill the bean on those sauces, Striker.
International Tea Day.
Yeah, it's International Tea Day.
That's why I have to spill the beans.
Well, yeah.
I'm just trying to. Yeah, okay. No, I mean the article pretty much says it all. But it will be organized by Blast. Like the plan is definitely for the first 2025 major, so the one after Shanghai, which would be in June, like beginning of June, right? I think it's 1st to 15th or something. No, 9th to 22nd is the first major of 2025. And Blast has been chosen as the organizer, and it looks like they're looking at Austin, Texas as the host city for it, as the most likely. I mean, I've heard a few different things over the. I've heard a few different things, but basically, I heard Dallas before, but basically both of it was like both the locations I heard for it were Texas, and more recently, like it's definitely been that they've made very concrete plans to hold it in Austin.
Okay.
So that's the plan for the first major of 2025. Of course, things can still change. It's like a year and something away. So, and we've seen changes before to locations just because of things happening. But that's certainly how it looks. And I think it was Messiozo who kind of added something to it. I don't know if like through actual some information that he had, but I think it was on the Dusty US Discord where he talked about how Blast got some money from the city itself to take the event there, and I think they're running some other tournaments in other esports there as well in this year. And so I think it seems like it's kind of a package deal with some of the other esports events that they're holding in Texas. I think even in Austin they're holding something this year, and I would have to check. I'm not following the other esports, but there are some other things that they're hosting there this year. So that's basically the gist of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any news on the trophy?
Well, I can say this. You know how they say everything's bigger in Texas? At least the major trophy will be bigger than this, this time. So
I think that'll be one thing that they definitely change, or they double down and make it even quirkier.
They
right?
double dip it. Now it's like nacho cheese and guacamole dip.
Damn. I hope it's the guacamole second, because that will go brown in the air if they leave that out for too long. But okay, so Austin, Texas. We can all go to the comedy mothership. We can take our alpha brain. We can drink our Black Rifle coffee and see Joe Rogan. So that'll be cool. But we're going back to America for a major. That's kind of exciting, Prof, isn't it?
A lot of people are. I'm reading comments about like, why is it in Texas? Blah blah. I mean, obviously there's like, as Striker said, some city connections. I also think America is fucking expensive to do events in.
I wish it was New York, but it's so expensive, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's like different states. I like Texas should be one of the cheapest states with like taxes and all of these things.
No income tax.
But throwing the even the Dallas show that we are doing, it's so insane. Like they charge and double charge and like add taxes on everything. It's crazy compared to everything else. It's like double the price that we did, and I can just imagine how much that scales for like a arena event and all of the things that come, like unionized labor and overtimes on everything. I'm not saying any of these things are bad, but comparing this to like how much you pay for like a European thing, it's a hefty price.
A lot of it does seem scandalous compared to where we run other events, right? In the sense that when we go to these hotels, they're not able to provide their own bottles of water. We have to use whatever the hotel has, for example, right?
Yeah,
these and that's just where they obviously put a premium price on all that stuff. So you're paying through the nose for those little things. America is a desirable place to be. So the hotels, like the one that we're going to for Dallas right now, I won't say the name of it, but people should be able to work it out pretty easily, is fucking expensive. And the amount of people they have there for lengthy periods of time, it's a lot. The union stuff you're talking about, I remember when we did do events in New York in the past, if it's running overtime or it runs past a certain hour and they don't want to work anymore, they've got unions. They just can fucking walk off the job, where that doesn't happen when we're doing it in other parts of the world. Like they will just work all through the night until it's done. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, for those workers or anything like that. That's just the way it is.
Just like esports and esports events are kind of tricky, and they kind of fit into how arenas work, but not really. People, you go to a Taylor Swift concert and you know exactly when it starts, when it ends. There is no real complication about it. You go to a football game, to a hockey game, there is like some variation, but like CS, a best of 5 or whatever in the Madison Square Garden is like from 3 to 9 hours. Yeah. So that can really make it difficult for everyone
to plug
play.
Things in, like just to plug in a PowerPoint. I remember there was something and they were like, oh no, you can't plug it in. We have to get like one of the electricians on site to come and like tag it and everything. And I know that, like, you don't want to overpower any of the boards or whatever, but it just does seem a little bit extortionate, like at a certain point. But anyway,
from what I heard, they also weren't particularly happy with how Washington went from a financial perspective. So like, all these things, like they seem to point to that they have something in it, to be able to host something in an American city.
It's pretty central though, isn't it? Like my geography is miserable. Isn't it pretty central?
Austin, Texas is the middle of the US, more or less.
Yeah.
So that could be like, because the other thing is, I understand that the US is a massive place. I guess it's in the South though, right? So that's probably the only drama, is it's going to take a while for the people up in like the Seattles or the New Yorks or whatnot to get down there. But I guess with that in mind, for people to come out to Texas, I think there are obviously some events that'll be affected by this. Like if IEM Dallas is slated for next year as well, that'll be negatively affected by this. Just remember when we had
I'd be surprised if it
Las Vegas.
Yes, we had the Las Vegas one that DreamHack pitched. Nobody went to that because it was the Atlanta Major 2017?
Yeah, that was 2017.
Yeah, and then it was the Atlanta Major, so nobody went to Vegas.
Month separated, even less than that. I think it was like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see like how, like if ESL go to Dallas again next year, because they've been trying to turn that into a place we've been going back to very frequently. But yeah, I think to have a major in North America is obviously a positive thing for the scene, which has been in a bit of turmoil ever since, I guess, the pandemic, right? That's what caused a lot of the qualms, not having too much cash injected in it. And maybe if, there's more eyeballs on it, maybe that'll help bring some of these orgs back into it. But I don't want us to get into a position with the VC pump and dump type fucking crypto bro bullshit we had a couple years ago. We need like actual investors who are interested in staying in the space, not these guys who come along and then leave after like a year and a half, like 100 Thieves. Like fuck those guys. So we need people who actually want to be in Counter-Strike and want to nurture something. But overall, I think it's cool. And Blast, whether or not people loved the trophy, I think they put on a pretty decent major, all things considered. In Paris, it was great. We had Vitality winning. That was a year ago. Everything was good.
Complexity winning in Texas.
Okay. Write Prof down for that one, everybody. And we'll see where that goes. All right. Should we move on?
It's a year away. Who the fuck knows?
That's true. Anything's possible. Should we move on? Should we move to the next topic? Everyone happy?
Yeah.
Everyone content? All right. We're going to talk about Bet Boom Dacha, which went down in Serbia over the last week, coming to its conclusion on Sunday evening in a best-of-5 grand final. That's a topic that seems to have hit Reddit again. So maybe we could start there. We don't even have to talk about, well, we're going to need to kind of limp into that. But there was another Reddit thread today saying all grand finals should be best-of-5s. Prof, it was only a couple years ago that everyone was saying no grand finals should be best-of-5s.
To be honest, it's different circumstances now. So we can't really compare it. Like we should reassess it now that we have MR12. And
all right, start
just
reassessing.
Because before I was a big proponent of best-of-3 finals, doesn't mean I am now. That being said, our best-of-5s have been 3-0. So not really something great that we can use to compare or make any great judgments. And there have been pretty big blowouts overall, like not really competitive at all. So I can't really say much. We can watch and assess, I would say.
That would be, I would when I was talking to, let me personalize this. And I know people hate it when I do this. And I basically am just quoting Charles Sonnen from his podcast that I was listening to today. But when I was talking to Valve at the major, and we were talking about the final situation, they were like, well, the last, what had it been? Like 7 major grand finals, or was it more? Had all been 2-0s. So how about we get a competitive major grand final before we make them best-of-5s? Like so there's actually a reason. So essentially the logic you're using there, Prof, is probably where there would be pushback on having a best of 5 grand final for the majors. But we do see Blast now doing best of 5 grand finals, right? ESL do it for Katowice, Cologne in the pro leagues. Betboom, Dacha are doing best of 5 finals. So it's not like they're few and far between. I wouldn't say they're the constant, but there's definitely a lot of them floating about, Striker.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it went from ESL hosting everything or nothing in best of 5s, then everything in best of 5s, and then they realized, okay, maybe we shouldn't have literally every IEM, everything running a best of 5 final at the end, because people are getting a little bit tired of it, especially in CS:GO, where it was just so much longer than it is now. So yeah, I mean, I think there's enough variety there that people can choose whatever they prefer, and at the same time, like we still haven't had a lot of a lot going in the way. Yeah, exactly. A lot going in the way of best of 5 finals in recent times. So at the moment, like for me, it's kind of whatever. Same as Valve, I guess. Like when we get some competitive best of 5s and when we get a lot of them, maybe that's where we can talk about the major as well.
Just a quick one. Maybe Lucas, you could bring up this tweet for everybody, and I just put it in TeamSpeak for you guys to take a look at. But there was a tweet by a Twitter handle or X handle, PlayUSEA, and it's to do with Counter-Strike tournament. Our inaugural season will have a prize pool of 350,000. There'll be no divisions. Intrigued? You should be. 8 weeks of regular season play, online bracket style tournament, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals on LAN. Anyone can enter. Did you guys see this?
Actually, I did, because it's been making the rounds, and it's because this is like a completely new tournament organized and nobody knows anything about. And they just come into the space suddenly, like putting up a 350K prize pool, which basically dwarfs anything that's happening in just like regionally in Counter-Strike in North America. So like from that perspective, I think people are a little bit skeptical about it. I think Dust to US has made some sort of an interview with them, and I think they said they would release it today. So I'm looking for that to see how legit this is, and like if they have real sponsors behind it and all that stuff, just before I get too excited about it. But honestly, like, I don't know if you guys saw the format that they came up with for like the regular season, but it's kind of fun. Honestly, like even though it's a little bit whack and like 10 years past, I feel like it's kind of fun, because it's like the way that they've set it up was like the regular season was going to have 8 weeks of play without any vetoes. So there would be 1 map per week, including Overpass.
That's 20 years out
including
of date.
Overpass.
Okay.
So they would have all 8 maps played, like, and it doesn't matter that you don't play the map. You just apparently have to play the map on that week. So like that's kind of, honestly, like it's obviously shit for competition, because it's like everything depends on the random draw and like what team you draw in a particular round. You know, that's, you have to play that team on a map that you never play, but they have their best or whatever like that. You know, like it is competitively so shit, but entertainment wise, I'm all here for it. Like, let's see 2 teams who've never played Vertigo play against each other, right?
Yeah, okay. Well, look, that is a very old school format. That's like how a lot of the tournaments people used to play like 20 years ago. Not like I remember brackets at like events would just be predetermined completely, and you'd just have to if you made it to that game, you better hope that it wasn't versus a team who was good on that map.
Look, I don't endorse it. I think like for a regional tournament, just for like something that will just help them have something to play and like something that they can actually care
it's
about.
All right for
Fuck it, it's fine. I'm just down for the entertainment of it. I would never want to see this at a top tournament, but yeah, for that it fits.
Yeah, okay. Should we do Skinionaire actually before we get into talking about this, and then we can do the ad break, and then we can come back and keep going, or do you want to do Skinionaire after the break, Prof?
Well, we can do it before.
Okay. All right. Lucas, are you ready? I know I just sprung it on you, but so Dimitri's done up the questions for this week's Skinionaire, and Prof, you're the one who will be answering the questions, I've been informed. So I don't know if you knew that was going to be the case.
Seems to be the case.
Now, I've had a sneak peek at these questions. I'm going to say that you're in for quite a tough task. Okay. I hope that you're prepared to have a little bit of fun with this. Lucas, there you go. Look at that. He's here. That's great. He's not talking to us. That's why it's 3.5 voices. And we're going to do Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by TradeIt.gg. And if you're in the Twitch chat right now, which I can see a lot of you are, just type Trade It. If you spam it, that's great. You should really do it as many times as possible. Not because it means that you enter more, but the more you spam it, the more interactions that we at HLTV Confirmed get, that we can then take to the sponsors and say, look at these metrics that we get during your segment. So spam it as many times as your little fucking heart's desire. But I'll tell you this much. You only get one raffle ticket every time you type trade it. No, not every time. Do only once. See, I almost fooled you there. All right. So who wants to be a Skinionaire? Tradeit.gg. Question number 1. Hold up. I got to look at the questions. NIP received a region-based invite for Yalla Compass thanks to having an office in what region?
Europe, NA, or MENA. And the last is correct.
Oh, shit. Okay. Where is their office, Prof?
I'm pretty sure it's in Abu Dhabi.
Correct.
I think they have an office in Abu Dhabi. This is.
You're surprised, Chad, but we literally had a conversation about this in the use chat where we were like, they've just got a MENA invite, and everybody's like, "What?"
Feels kind of sus, but okay.
That's the world we live in, I'd say. Yep. All right. Question number 2. How many international Sky Esports events were cancelled this year? 0, 1, or 2?
Oh my God. Oh, okay. I think 1 international and 1 local event. And 1 was transferred online. So the correct answer would be, I'm locking in 1.
Yeah, I think it depends on the definition, but
Now, I didn't write these questions. Dimitri has told me the explanations if needed. Sky Esports Masters wasn't cancelled, but moved online.
That's such a bullshit.
Well, so the cancelled one was last year?
Fully canceled. There were 2 last year as well, yeah. And this year has just been moved online, I think.
Now, these are tricky. Yeah, he's coming up with these ones. All right. Question number 3. Who has more followers on Twitter, Striker Prof or the HLTV Confirmed account?
Ooh, I didn't look at this for a while, but I think I'm still in the lead over Striker. And I'm not looking at the cameras to see any reactions. Let's see.
Correct.
So let's fucking go.
All right, 2 out of 3.
I have like 33,000. You have also like around 30.
32-ish, yeah.
Yeah, and I know Confirmed is around 20K, so that wasn't.
All right, these get tougher from here. Or at least this next one does. All right. Question number 4. Who of the following has never performed in the Royal Arena? Justinus Lekavicius, Helvis Sakants, or Taylor Swift?
Obviously, answer is Taylor Swift because it's too small for a performer of this caliber.
Correct. And they wouldn't let her land her private jet in Denmark.
Because they're too green.
This is Dimitri's information, or do you know this?
No, I made that up.
Okay.
I want to get as many Swifties out there mad at me as possible. All right. Question number 5.
Prof is a Swiftie, so he's going to get mad.
That's fine. I'm not. Okay.
You rephrased it? Okay. Which of the following cities did Twist not suggest would be more successful for a major than Austin?
How's Canada a city, bro? How's Canada a
Boston,
city?
New York, or Canada?
Oh, is this a trick question? Like, Canada is not a city. I should ignore that part, right?
I think you should go with your heart.
I think you should take this.
No, shut up, Lucas. Which of the following cities did Twist not suggest would be more successful for a major than Austin?
I'll choose Canada then, because Canada is not a city, at least from what I know.
I'm sure there is a city called Canada somewhere.
Canada.
That is correct. The Canada is correct. 4 out of 5, Prof.
Let's go.
You've had Dimitri try and throw a couple of curveballs at you.
Let me see. Actually, let me see if place is city Canada.
Thoughts on this performance?
I think you did pretty well. I think it was a bit unfair with some of the questions that he levied your way. I would have been spitting chips if I received half of those questions. I think the Sky Sports International one, or Sky Esports International one, was grim. It's like, who the fuck is Sky Esports?
I feel like that question was paid by Sky Esports to
get
level up there. Yeah, not even that, but like to turn around the negative PR they had. It's like, how many are canceled? 0, so they must be doing great.
That's true.
I feel like Dimitri is getting some change.
It is crazy that they flew teams to India to play online.
No. The online. No.
They didn't send them to India?
No, it was in Europe.
It was in Europe. I'm pretty sure they were in
Dinko
Belgrade.
had to go to India. He had
But
to go to the hospital.
the broadcast was in India.
Oh, Dinko, why did he have to go?
Well, he apparently had a great time with
He
Bless,
got sick. He was in hospital.
Yeah, well, he ate something he shouldn't have. That can happen anywhere.
How does that? How does that defeat my point? By the way, there's a place called Canada in England and a place called Canada in Kansas. So technically, we don't know what Twists meant. He might have meant one of those two places.
Wow. For the purpose of the Skinionaire by Trader.gg.
There's Czech Canada and Czech Republic, actually. I forgot about that.
All right. Well, I have to give a shout out to Andre Adenis, Andre, whatever. Our people will reach out to your people and we'll get you. You didn't get the 50. What do we get? The 15? You get the $15 voucher thanks to trader.gg. We're going to run a quick ad break. We'll be right back. We'll continue talking about BetBoom, Dacha, and IEM Dallas just around the corner. BRB.
Are you tired of your boring old skins? Head to Trade It and trade them for exciting new ones within seconds. With 24/7 support, massive inventory, free giveaways, and low fees. Trade It is the highest rated trading platform in the market. What are you waiting for? Start trading today for a $5 bonus, only on Trade It.
Remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
And we're back. Thank you for bearing with us through the break. Prof showing you the CSGO Through the Lens lookbook right there. Great for your coffee table. Great if you've got a friend who loves Counter-Strike. Great if right now your partner is watching HLTV Confirmed, maybe on the VOD a day later, and you can just hear this Australian voice that you always fucking hear, and you go, what is that dickhead talking about? Well, he's saying right now, if the birthday's coming up or Christmas is coming up for your significant other who likes Counter-Strike, get yourself in order for CSGO Through the Lens, wrap it up, put it in a little stocking stuffer, give them a present. They'll fucking love it, and you can thank me later. All right. We're back. Let's get talking about BetBoom Dacha, which we started talking about and then we stopped talking about, which is kind of the way life goes sometimes. Now, we need to kick things off with the 1xBet. What's the odds? Not question, but results, because two of the results came through and we need to kind of, that's the graphic, Lucas, if you could whack that bad boy up on screen. Prof, do you want to walk everybody through what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, we had two of these so far. We made our odds. We're kind of, the first one was with Hooch. You weren't there. That's when we talked about Falcons reaching playoffs before the break. We leaned towards it not happening, but they proved us wrong and proved you guys who voted wrong. So unfortunately, we didn't earn anything from that. But Donk will be MVP at BetBoom Dacha. A little bet that we had going was successful. Obviously, MVP, I think 152 seems like a good gift of the odds for Donk being the MVP. So essentially, that went through, and now we have 74 euros in the pot that we will accumulate through the season, and at the end of the season we'll be doing a giveaway with it.
It's kind of like we take everybody out for a Christmas dinner or something. We've had like a swear jar, and we put $2 in every time somebody swears, and we take everybody out for some Christmas drinks or dinner. Okay. All right. Well, that's one of the odds. We're not doing the question just yet, though, Lucas. We're going to hold off on the question. We'll come to the question later, but we can pick up on one of the two topics that was just discussed there. Do you want to start with Falcons? Do you want to start with donk? I know you got something you want to say about donk, bro.
I guess we can start with Falcons. It's going to be less to talk about, to be honest. I don't know even what to say. I'm really happy for them for their micro win streak as they.
What was it? 2 in a row.
2 in a row, but it means something. They got to playoffs. Wasn't the most competitive run to playoffs, like winning 2 games, but that's still something. Still something for a team that was like had nothing going for them for such a long time.
I have a question or a fun little game I'd like to play with you two right now.
Okay.
So here's what the fun game is going to be called. It's going to be called Make Any Other Team Stronger by taking one piece of Falcons, or make as many teams strong as you can by taking one piece of Falcons.
Okay.
Magic to vitality. Okay, good. We found one. Who could go to G2?
To be honest, also Magic.
Yeah, or Madden wouldn't be terrible.
For Nexa?
Yeah.
I guess so. Not like a crazy.
No, not crazy, but
not crazy.
We might as well. You could also do all 3 and just kind of like keep Nico and Monacy and put those 3 in.
Yeah,
I'd say like some Pies twins. I mean, it's just like what I was saying at the start of the show. Like so many teams just became the new teams after transfers just worse than what we had before. Individually, people dropped off and teams just don't function. So that's kind of sad right there. What else? I mean, not that many.
No, not that many, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you go down the list, obviously, like if you put like a Magic in there, they're just gonna instantly get better. But that's not so much fun.
Someone in chat said Sampaias to Cole.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that one.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
That was from Cutter7. Good suggestion, Cutter7.
Yeah, that would be not bad at all.
I mean, other than that, I don't know. It's more the teams like on the lower end of the top 20, 30 that you can actually upgrade. The rest is,
or Magic's back to Astralis.
Well, I don't even know if they need him. Like,
I didn't say they do. I'm just saying like they would probably still get better.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wasn't as fun of a game as I thought it was going to be. What do you think about the Falcons striker? Because for me, there's nothing to really talk about.
I was going to say, like, I think obviously it's their best result since Katowice, but considering they beat Bad Boom and Team Virtus Pro is struggling and that they lost to previously, like it's not, they got so like if they had a good series against Spirit and they looked like they can take one of these top teams to close results, I would have said something different. But with how they got destroyed by Spirit on 2 maps, it's like I don't even know what to say about it. Like, of course, it's a better team than like the last 3 months have shown, but is it really that much more? Like at the moment, I think I still need to see more for them, like to see them where they want to see themselves, for competing like for top spots at big events.
ENCE was potentially a top 3 team, but at very worst a top 5 team, and now Falcons is lucky to be a top 20 team.
It is also a little bit difficult to say, like with the transition to CS2, like I think that also had a lot of say, and a lot of these teams, like as Prof was saying, just getting worse. Like a lot of these players just got worse, and we just don't know which one of them, like how much of it is it down to their form not being up to par with CSGO, and how much is it actually, or just generally their vision of CS2 maybe not being up to date. Maybe they're just not that good in utilizing everything that CS2 has to offer against a like young team like MOUZ, like as a complete opposites, So like from that perspective, I'm like, I don't know what to put this down to, but definitely there's been an issue with like people kind of expecting maybe too much.
I saw Smooth tweet this today, and when I was talking to Dastan, maybe it was in Chengdu, he made a kind of similar comment to me. But Smooth tweeted this today, and I know people are going to be like, "Oh, fuck Smooth," or "Well, yeah, Smooth said that." But I feel this sentiment is kind of shared by some professionals. Smooth said, and I quote, "I fucking hate how many absolute noobs can own people in CS2. Why is this game just a version of Valorant but reskin?" Now, obviously, he's being hyperbolic there, using a bit of hyperbole. I've made sure I said it both ways so I don't upset anybody. But when I was speaking to Dustin, he said that he thinks that it's easier for people to shoot in CS2 than it is in CSGO. And you were just saying there about the guys from Falcons, not being able to capitalize on everything in CS2. But so I just wonder how like all of that kind of like crosses over or correlates or whatever, right? Because if it is, like, if a sentiment is it's easier to shoot, then is the game still like when I play, it still feels like you can get away with a lot of swinging. But I'm curious if that's just because to be the one dictating the duel is probably the better thing to be doing most of the time anyway in Counter-Strike, right? As like holding angles is obviously something which is quite strong if you have an AWP. But it's not like it was in 1.6 where you'd hold an angle and you'd be guaranteed the first and maybe you could get the spray down for the second. Now, like if they swing wider than your crosshair placement, and because of jiggling as well, this is one of the big things with jiggling. In 1.6, you would never jiggle a corner because as soon as you were spotted on the corner, you'd get wallbanged through the corner. You're not getting away. Like, you're committed to the fight. They will track you through the wall and they will spam you and you get tagged and you get slowed down and you get killed. In CSGO and CS2, you're going to jiggle a lot because you're trying to bait out the shot and force the crosshair to be somewhere and then subvert that expectation. So I don't know. I don't even know why I brought this up. It was just something that I remember Smooth tweeted today. And then you said in terms of the game itself and maybe not being able to take advantage of things, but just wonder if that's a general sentiment shared by a lot more like pros or whatnot. But I don't know. I don't think the game's in like a terrible position. I think it just, maybe people need to be more active all the time. That's one thing that I feel.
I also think a lot of players still aren't using like the smoke nade combinations good enough. Especially people just like throwing nades for random damage so many times. Like if an execute comes in, that nade can win you the round. Like I feel like people aren't utilizing that to the full potential. Like these like one nade explosion of a smoke literally changes the round outcome, and people use them as they are just like nades as they used to be in CSGO, which they are not in any way. So I think that's also something that the younger guys, and this is just like a general sentiment. Obviously, you can be 40 and play like 10 hours a day, but whoever is playing 10 hours a day is going to get used to a bit quicker. And I think it is what it is. It's a very similar game, but there's a lot more to learn and relearn and get out of a habit of doing, right? So I think some of these habits that older people have are the problem, are the little things that makes the difference.
That's essentially like the life cycle of Counter-Strike though, right? Like if you want to be a modern day professional, you need to make sure that you're keeping up with all of the nuances and tricks and the way that not only like the meta is evolving, but also how the micro is evolving and how you fit into that. And that was one of the things, remember when Nico and Rain wouldn't even use the Krieg or the AUG? They were just like so anti it, and then they used it and then it got nerfed, right? And like it was actually Valve were making fun of that fact. But it's things like that where you kind of have to be embracing the change of the game, and you have to be open to embrace the change of the game. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind and it'll be exploited against you, and you'll be getting frustrated and you'll be blaming the game, or you'll be blaming the way that mechanic is being used against you, as opposed to just learning it and then maximizing it. And if the younger players, which is probably why we see a team like MOUZ, who are all young and hungry, are going to be learning and geeking out on every single one of those details. And that's eventually the gear shift that happens with professional Counter-Strike players, is you don't have that young, nerdy obsession hunger, that one that you wake up where, it's first thing on your mind, the one where you're taking a shit and all you're thinking about is like a strat or what you could do, or how you can move around. This is always on your mind. That shifts away and then it becomes a chore. And if you can't make it part of your like working day as a professional Counter-Strike player to learn these nuances and try and capitalize on them, then you are going to get kind of left in the dust a little bit.
I want to say also one thing, because I don't know, I'm going to get a DM from Snappy and being like, it's not because I'm old, because there is another reason for like why Falcons would be having a tougher time adapting to CS2. And that is because, first of all, they have a completely new team. Obviously it is the end core, but it is like an amalgamation of different teams and different players, plus the whole Bora situation, which really, I would say, obviously, no one really liked that.
I don't think they did anything wrong there.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying the public perception, but just having him in the team and his element to the team that was like random and not really, you know, obviously the professionalism maybe was lacking, but also the game sense and knowledge and how to play the game was lacking. So they needed to learn all of these basics at the same time as a new game came out, when teams like MOUZ, FaZe even though they made like one change, but we know that they usually do pretty well and fast in adapting. And it's Frozen, Kerrigan, Rops that played together before. So it's, you know, there's stuff going on. I just want to say some of these teams had a good baseline to work on in CS2, and Falcons is not one of these teams. They did not have that. They needed to kind of do so much basic stuff and then adapt to a new game on top of it. And I don't think they even got to that point for the, you know, until maybe now, realistically.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from Falcons. It's just a project that exists. Like, I don't hate on them, but I also, you know, I mean,
it's severely limited for sure.
Can only talk about the results they're getting, and at the moment their results are very mid. So that is what it is. Okay, this is one where you can get on your soapbox, Prof. I saw you getting up in arms about this. There's conversation on the interwebs, on the dirt sheets, as I like to call them, where people are suggesting that Spirit should be making roster changes, and I think that got your panties in a bunch.
But I'm not crazy. Like, you guys saw these comments as well.
Yeah,
I'm not like,
I saw some of them. Yeah,
I see all the comments. I see them all. You should see the shit they say about me, Prof. Man.
I'm not saying, you know, I say the community. Obviously, I don't think everyone is saying, but there's enough people talking about this in like different articles and comments and forum posts that I'm like, are we actually saying we should replace Zontix after the Spirit lost 3 series in the whole year? Like, obviously, they didn't play that many games, that many tournaments as some other teams, but their losses are the completely meaningless MOUZ, like result wise, it didn't really change anything. The loss to MOUZ at the RMR, losing to FaZe in the quarterfinals of a major, barely, and now losing to MOUZ in the grand final, not that great. And obviously in these 2 series, Zontix had 2 very bad maps, and that is just facts. But overall, he has been really good. They won fucking Katowice. He was great in Katowice. He was great in most of these series. He plays not the sexiest roles in the world. Probably the one of some of the worst roles in CS. And we are now we're talking about replacing this guy. Perfecto is a really good player, but why? Why are we replacing a kid that came from the academy like 6 months ago, has a 1.10 rating average against like the best teams in the world, has been good on stage as well? What are we talking about? Like, are we insane? Are we did we lose every ounce of reason in our minds? What the hell?
I think the answer to your question is yes. I think all reason has been lost. I don't think there was ever any reason in the first place, Prof. I think that what we have is we have a space where people expect the absolute premium all the time. The absolute top-notch pedigree needs to be delivered 110% of the time in a competitive environment where everybody involved is trying to win. And if you don't, Prof, if you're not doing your job and you're not winning all the trophies, you need to go. You need to be replaced. It's if you don't win every tournament, Prof, you need to be replaced.
It's a crazy switch from like, Zontix is the best anchor in the world. Magic's Q, blah blah. And then I guess it's also because of that he was also great in Katowice, and everyone's like, oh fuck, this guy's great. That when he has 2 bad maps that people notice, that it's like, oh no, actually he is not that. He is now dog shit. He's the problem and he should be replaced. Also completely ignoring the fact that, changing a player actually makes you play worse in the short term. That's just like objectively true. It's just a fact. So why would we do this?
You know what else is fun? It was the first event with the change of map pool, right? So there's also that. It was also the first officials that they had played since the major, or the first LAN officials they had played. No, it was the first officials they had played since the major, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not crazy. And then again,
2 months, by the way, almost.
Yeah, that's a long time in the Counter-Strike world, everybody, to not play any officials.
They didn't even play online. That's the crazy part. Like, they were used to grinding so much of this online shit, and they were like, finally, we don't have to do that because we're getting all the invites. And then they don't play for 2 months.
Look, I just asked Grok, the X AI, why are HLTV forums so insane? And it says, well, it seems like the HLTV forums have become a bit of a wild frontier where users can openly discuss their passion for Counter-Strike, share their opinions, and sometimes let their emotions get the best of them. The forums have a reputation for being a bit of a chaotic place where users can express their thoughts freely, which can sometimes lead to heated discussions, misunderstandings, and, well, a bit of insanity. It's like a digital Thunderdome where two opinions enter and sometimes neither leaves unscathed. But hey, at least it's never boring. Just remember to pack your sense of humor and thick skin when venturing into the HLTV forums, and you'll be just fine.
Honestly, that is the most accurate review of HLTV forums I've ever seen.
I'm tweeting it right now.
We should make this, a warning before you post or go in to read.
Oh, that's too good.
We should replace this is an international website. Please leave your comments in English.
Oh, okay, great. I don't know, Prof. I think also something else that gets left out of the discussion is the fact that the team that they lost to in the final was MOUZ, the team who just won EPL the week before. And it's like they lost to another very good Counter-Strike team. What are we fucking talking about?
And it's also that like that 2-month gap. I think that maybe gets underestimated. That obviously like you can't really measure like how much that impacts a team. But if you're out of play for 2 months, like obviously you're not going to get tested as much. Like of course you can practice all you want, but it's never going to be the same as officials. We've heard that a million times. That's like you just don't get tested to the same degree when you play practice versus officials. So like if you don't play for 2 months and then you lose one series at a tournament, like okay, and it's the grand final, by the way, against the team that just won the previous tournament. It's like, yeah, maybe let's be a little bit reasonable, I think it did come a little bit, like it is a little bit unfair to Spirit, like that they had such a high and then they just have to wait and like not do anything with it for 2 months. Like it's kind of crazy, like of course they could have done more at the major and like won that, but they were honestly like, who knows what would have happened if they had won that series against FaZe, and that was like about 2 rounds. So that's like from all these perspectives, I feel like definitely like benefit of the doubt for Spirit from all kinds of angles.
Now, I think the thing is, if we keep having events and Zontix has wonky performances on stage matches, then we start having a conversation. But I think this early on, I think the problem is as well that kind of plays into this, Prof, is that there are names like Perfecto, major winner, sitting in the wings, currently not doing anything. So people always get a little bit horny. Like, well, where's Perfecto going? Or maybe he can go to Spirit because this guy's not looking good. So those conversations start. And whether they're right or wrong, because there's obviously rumors that circulate, like from some of these crazy Twitter accounts. We never really know, what's happening. And then also, it doesn't take much because some guy who nobody knows can make a tweet saying minus this guy plus this guy, and the next thing you know, it's like being discussed like it's actually happening. So
it's ridiculous. Actually, it's kind of I don't want to say irresponsible, but it's kind of a joke how many respectable people in the community will just read, fucking Jonas's tweet or whatever VK post screenshot through like another Twitter account and be like, just start talking about it as if it's real. It's like, what are our standards this low in terms of like reports and leaking and stuff? Like there's not,
and also like treating information on the internet like in general. Like,
it's like I'm not even talking about like Harumi. Like Harumi is at least like 50% correct. This is like complete, like first time saw this account, like Swedish Taylor Swift leaks and being like, okay, this let's just talk about it as if it's real. And then of course the average Joe, when he sees like a talent member discussing this, is gonna think this is real, and it's like complete chaos.
But I think the thing is whether it's real or not real, right? Does that even matter to the discussion?
It matters if you're like signal boosting this, because like you have like 7 times the audience or 200 times the audience of this random guy.
Explain why the signal boosting is bad. Like if it's just a conversation,
you're potentially spreading misinformation, right? Like, and especially like, of course you can say like this has been no way corroborated or whatever like that, but nobody ever does that. Only I do that. It feels like whatever I say, like, okay, this is just a rumor. Like, I don't actually know if this is happening or not. But if this was like, nobody does that. So like from that perspective, like it is bad form for you to to signal boost or spread information that you don't know is true. You know, like it is just going to cause more people to believe that it could be true, even though like literally, like for all you know, like the only reason for that being fabricated in the first place was to signal boost to get people to talk about it. You know, and then it's not you're not doing a service to the community with that.
Interesting. Okay, because like for me, the way I look at all of this type of conversation, like especially with the stuff around the liquid stuff, I saw a lot of people citing all of these different opinions about a situation that I would assume most of the people discussing it only know from the outside looking in, only know from what they think of this or what they think of that. And I look at, you know, the idea that someone's tweeting rumors about the idea that they're looking to replace Zontix with Perfecto or that Zontix should go as just community conversation. I don't know at what point, maybe I missed, because I'm trying not to be on the Twitter a whole lot and that kind of stuff. Maybe I missed some of the sentiment that could be causing harm. But at the end of the day,
somebody basically entirely fabricated the fact that, like, first of all, Perfecto was going to Spirit for Zontix, and that Zontix was going to go to Monty if that happens, you know. And literally, like, Monty director immediately said, never happened. We never talked to them. And like, everything I've talked to people in the background, and I can absolutely support all of that. Absolute fabrication. Don't know where the guy got details to the level where he says, like, if this happens, that happens. If there's like so much insight that is just absolute bullshit. Like, absolutely. But that's the thing.
Like, if you add more details, it sounds more believable than like minus Perfecto.
But that's
plus,
the point. Like, I don't want to say that that's what the guy did. Like, I have no idea. I don't know the guy. Like, I have no idea where he got it from. Maybe he got it from somebody who gave him like good information previously. Possible. But obviously, you're not a very good journalist if you're just going to take the first word out of someone for granted. You have to have stories corroborated if you don't want to do a disservice to the community and spread misinformation, right? Like, you can't just repeat like hearsay. Like, basically that's what it is.
This is where I completely missed what you guys were discussing. I thought you were just talking about some of the HLTV threads I read that were like, you know,
but I mean, it came from somewhere, you know, and then sometimes it catches wind as it is, and then, you know, obviously rumors are going to come out either way, but if they're true, they can be harmful, but if they're completely made up, they can be, you know, it's even worse because you have no idea what the fuck is going on. So I don't know. I support everyone that's doing good work in any way. Like, even,
but like, imagine, like, okay, like one way that it could actually hurt is, like, let's say people from around the scene, like GMs in the background, hear about this and they're like, okay, Perfecto's like locked. Like, okay, we're never gonna get Perfecto because like Spirit is calling. Like, why would you ever talk to him if Spirit is getting this guy? You know, so like if enough people repeat it, if there's enough like supporting it, then like people will actually make decisions based on rumors, and that just happens but all the time around the scene, where people just think, like, the stupidest example of that is like Degster and his kid. Like, Henry G literally didn't want to talk to the guy because he thought Degster had a kid and he was never going to leave Australia. I'm like, that's like Degster did that to himself, but that's what you can do to people if you spread lies about them. So like, it can have harmful impact, you know. Like, it's not just like you can say anything you want and decide, especially if you have a following, you know. Like, if you're some random guy who says it in a pub, who cares, you know? But if you have some following, then it gets traction, then you have a responsibility, you know.
Okay. Well, look, I don't think there's too much to talk about with Spirit at this event. They went in, they had a good showing. Donk took home the MVP. They changed their positions on Vertigo CT side. I think it's all good. We'll get to see them go. We'll talk about Dallas later, but they'll be in Dallas next week. And they're on the same side of the bracket as Na'Vi. So we'll get to see how that all shakes out. But overall, I think, the main thing you wanted to touch on, Prof, was that, right? So we're good with Spirit?
Yeah, I mean, Donk is still fucking sick. I'm glad we got a reminder, and that there's no reason to forget this kid and how good he is. And we can't wait to see him more against like the top teams, playing against the G2s and the FaZes. And why did I say G2 first? Now someone's gonna call me out. Whatever.
Fucking G2, fucking shit.
Fucking fanboy, man.
Oh dear. Okay, so yeah, I wanna start pivoting now. Let me find, where is it? Where's my little page?
I'll also say one thing, actually, just because like people kind of looked at this MVP decision as the same as ZywOo, and although there are some similarities, you know, where like they just dominated before the final so much that there was going to take some time or like something special to overtake them. Like, Donk actually had a lot to say in the final. Like, he was the player of the map on the first map. Like, it was not his fault that they lost. Like, he did pretty much everything he could outside of like dropping a 2.00 rating, you know, for them to win that map. So like from that perspective, like he did plenty to try to get Spirit somewhere. I don't know if people remember Mirage. There were like 3 rounds in a row where you got like a double kill or a triple kill, and they were in an advantage, and then they just throw it, you know, like they just lose the round, and literally they got destroyed in Mirage after the fact, you know. So like just from that perspective, I feel like it was a bit unfair to say like donk like ghosted in the final, you know, like at least for ZywOo, I understood that perspective, like that he just didn't match up at all to what he was showing before. But like donk had a really, like he was the best player on the server on one of the 3 maps played. So it's like there's plenty he did in the final, and he didn't ghost for the other 2 maps either. Like it's just his team did kind of, and Zontic just disappeared on the last map completely. So he got kind of let down from that aspect. So I just wanted to talk about the decision just a little bit. Also, like the more the similarity between the 2 cases is more that MOUZ just did it by committee, and they again had like four players. Even all 5 players were taking turns. Fucking Shuhei ends the event as like 1.15 or something rated in the end, you know. So like obviously if you have 5 guys like that, it's like Astralis versus Simple, you know, like that's basically what happened a lot of the time when they met in the final. You know, Astralis didn't win the MVP, Simple did, because he was so much better as an individual, because Astralis just did it by committee. They did it much more evenly between them, you know. So that's also part of the like reason, like none of the MOUZ guys were so dominant, you know. Like Xerxin was, again, probably will end up as a top EVP, you know. His form has been insane, but that doesn't mean he was better than donk, and just because he won the tournament doesn't mean he was the best player at the tournament, you know. Like that's just not how it works, at least not from our perspective, you know. You can have your opinion on what the best player at a tournament or most valuable player at a tournament means, but at least that's how we look at it.
Okay. All right, well, let's quickly just talk about Heroic a little bit. We get to see them on debut with degster in the roster in place of Nikodos. That all happened pretty quickly. So they tried to pick into Dust 2 a little bit, which I guess definitely plays to the strengths of a player like degster. It was good to see him returning to the server because he always was quite a talented individual. And he put that on display almost immediately. He had some really big performances considering the amount of time that he was out of the server. They played MIBR, they played Spirit, they played MIBR, and they played MOUZ. So that was their teams that they went up against. So in terms of the sample size, they played probably 2 of the absolute best teams in the world and MIBR. And I don't say that to have a dig at MIBR. They're just not one of the 2 best teams in the world.
And honestly, MIBR have been like, for its like top 20-ish team, they've actually had some decent results. Like it's not just a throwaway team that was there. So like even that is, like, it's obviously like for a top 10 team, it's not some impressive scalp, but it's not a bum team.
Now, the way that you posed the question here, Prof, is did Heroic improve with degster? What is your takeaway?
I guess so, yeah. I would say improvement, not like insane improvement, but a step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, well, I think without a doubt, like having a strong AWPer like him in the team brings that X factor, right? And wasn't Saw saying in an interview that they didn't have the fear factor of the AWP or something along those lines?
Generally, like they've been, even in kind of explaining the move, was that they wanted a more traditional AWPer, you know, because Nikodas has been like transitioning more to a hybrid. He had something like 20% kills with the AWP, you know, which is below even like ZywOo, Simple, you know, the guys who have haven't
traditionally been hybrids.
Exactly, like kind of more hybridy. They're obviously still main AWPers of their teams, but tending to the rifle and a lot of the sides, a lot of the maps, you know, stuff like that. So he was even more heavily trending towards the rifles, you know, and so they wanted somebody who had more of an impact with the AWP as it is, because like if you just don't have it on the map a lot of the rounds, like you can take certain risks that you wouldn't otherwise. You wouldn't peek certain angles if you knew there was a chance there's an AWP on the other side, you know. And if there's not an AWP on the other side half of the time compared to a team that has a dedicated AWPer, then like you will just take some more liberties than you would otherwise, you know. So I'm thinking, like, obviously I'm kind of reading between the lines, but that's generally what it means when Saw says something like that.
Yeah, but that's bang on, especially with the map pool that we find ourselves in now. I know Overpass was an AWPer's map as well, but Dust 2, if you don't have the fear factor of the AWP getting boosted in Suicide or potentially picking over like mid smokes or whatever, or trying to find gaps around middle and just being that harassing force, or him playing the mid-long car game helper position, right? Like that is where AWPers can fucking change games on a map like Dust 2. And if you have someone that's missing like Nikodos was, I think he's a better rifler than he is Orpa. I've said that a couple times. Then that's really going to hurt you on a map like Dust 2. And it's clear that Heroic wanted to bring that into their map pool. So I think from that side of things, it's really good. You get two quite fiery individuals now in terms of nerds alongside of degster. I think that gives some really cool options for Kixon to be able to call around. I think Shush is really good. I think there was a couple of maps there where Tessus was putting his aim on display. Like he had some games where he was just fucking blasting, bro. I was like, fuck. It was good to see. So I think it's like without a doubt an upgrade. It's probably the step in the right direction, but I think it's too soon to say how much better it's made them. I don't know how much better it's going to make them, but positive signs for me. So yeah, thumbs up.
You can also tell that he's kind of, I mean, he's always been that, but he's quite aggressive, like in the right moments, aggressive. Like people were kind of blaming degster for being a little bit too baity, like putting his teammates as a sacrifice. But generally, like, of course, as an opera, like you will have to do that a lot of the time if you want to play up to the op. Like you have the most expensive gun, right? Like you're gonna have to sacrifice your teammates. But he just knows where to take some risks, where to take a peek, where maybe otherwise they wouldn't. And he even said that about himself. That's something that he was looking to like differentiate himself from other operas. Being more aggressive, taking some more risks. And you can tell that they have that factor now. How much like. I don't think he was like blowing it out, blowing up the server or anything like that. I think he was still maybe a little bit far from like his CS:GO peak, at least the ones that we saw maybe 2 years ago when he was with Spirit, especially, because I'm not sure that he necessarily showed that a lot with OG. But like the explosiveness was there. Like you could see at least from the eye test, maybe just the outputs didn't quite match his previous from CS:GO. But like after a year he's been gone, I think that's quite understandable. And getting up to grips with a new team with very little playtime to have with them. So like from all these perspectives, good signs moving forward. It's not like I'm blown away, but like pretty impressed with them so far.
Yeah. When's their next event? Are they in Dallas?
They're in Dallas, and Falcons is in Dallas as well.
Okay. They are in Dallas, but like I did hear some rumbling that it's not 100% sure that he's going to attend because of visas, because he came into the team like at the last minute. So I'm just waiting for them to confirm or deny or see whether that's going to happen. That would suck for them just because, like they just have their first event and then they would have to go back, assuming to Nikodos, for one event, So like from that angle, that would suck. So just keep your ear to the ground because that's a possibility.
Okay, well that sucks. We'll talk about Dallas in a minute. Prof, anything you want to say?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about MOUZ, and then we'll get into our what are the odds question as well as we get to the tail end of this conversation. But again, and we did this on last episode, we have to do it again right now. We got to give the flowers to MOUZ, right? The type of Counter-Strike they're playing is extremely confident CS, and you are getting what I guess for him would be considered peak level Stewie right now. He is playing some top level Counter-Strike as an in-game leader. Everybody in the team is firing. They are young. They are hungry. They do not give a fuck about a repeak. They are playing confident, but also well-restrained Counter-Strike when necessary. And they don't seem like they're scared of anybody. Now, the caveats will come with this. Let's just do the positive for now. Yeah. We can do the caveats in a minute. I think they're playing a pretty comprehensive game. I think the long rebirth of Torji is like, think about degster Torji. We all thought he was going to get replaced. Horrible, this is a completely different guy. It's a completely different player. The level of impact that he's able to have in games is insane. I've always been quite high on Exertion. I think I've spoke quite high of him in multiple occasions. The redemption arc of Brollan out of the NIP grave, I think that's fantastic too. There's all these fun little storylines with each and every single one of these players. They're young. They're winning best of fives in 3-0 fashions dominantly. Like ZywOo and Donk copped it in back-to-back weeks. They fucking copped the MOUZ. Like that's fucking insane.
The storyline is also they beat Navi as well in the final at TPL, also against Simple. So there's it's really joy to watch how
it's
they.
All
I don't want to
say, isn't it, Prof?
I don't want to say that they like shut down star players because they still play pretty good. Like it's not, I would say the ZywOo one was probably the worst in terms of the performance. Like Donk still played pretty well, but they individually are fucking amazing. Like this is the same thing that I saw in EPL, the way that they were playing, taking confident duels, winning like important 1v1s, making plays, all over the map, right? It's not like they're exclusively making plays, but when they did, they would win it. Like they would win those rounds, and add on that just like a pretty good like team play. It's really hard to stop that kind of stuff, and it's just a copy paste. It was literally a copy paste of the week before of an EPL. It was like a bit of a tough like first map, and then blowout throughout.
I wanna just say something regarding in-game leaders for a second. If you're Stewie, for example, or if you're any in-game leader, and a new player or a new roster manifests, and when a new roster starts, that's essentially when you have to do your most work, because you are working through all of the teething issues, the decision trees, the strategies, trying to decide everybody's strengths and weaknesses, the way that you want to approach the game, having to micromanage a little bit more. But once you hit the flow state where everybody's on board, and now they have an even stronger coaching staff, obviously with Cycron as the primary coach, but they brought Zipex in. And so far, I guess for him, it couldn't be looking any better because he's come in and they've had these victories. So there's strong, experienced staff around Stewie as well. Once the game is set, the amount that he gets to focus more on his crosshair is insane. Like, you don't have to be worrying so much about calling all these intricate especially if your teammates are all playing confident Counter-Strike as well. If Torji's calling his shot on the AWP, if Exertion is saying, I'm going to take this map control, it makes his life so much easier. And I'm not using that as a way to degrade him. I'm using that as a way to build them up. That they have been able to nurture a culture and environment within the team where the players feel confident enough to be able to assist him like that. And there's also the trust factor from him to be able to give them that space, and they can then work as a cohesive unit. So someone who's young, like Stewie, is then able to frag in the fashion he's playing, because he's what was he, plus 19 for the series or something?
I mean, did you see the Meta Monday article that we put out?
No, which
it was on Monday. So it was essentially about the round on Vertigo where they pull out kind of like a fake MOUZ against Spirit in the final.
Oh, it's where they go back to B, right?
Yeah, where they go back to B and Stewie makes the play through the thing. I think for me, the most interesting part of that, because we got like a comment from Stewie as well on the round, was that he says like the call, he doesn't even know who made the call, but it wasn't him. It was like
couldn't have been him.
It was someone that was dead that was like communicating and seeing the space and being like, oh, we should go back and like adding to it. And that's like exactly what you're explaining. It's like the team knows each other so well, even though like obviously the Brollan edition came a bit later, but the rest of the team has been playing together so much, and before and now like reuniting in the main team, right, of MOUZ NXT to MOUZ, that they can pull off stuff like this. That is like everyone has obviously they have the confidence, but they also have the knowledge of how they want to play and how someone else would like to play. Because if you join a pug and you're like, you see something, but the other guy doesn't want to play how you want to play, that's kind of useless, right? You can tell him what to do, but he sees the situation differently and doesn't work. But they have that chemistry really spot on, and it's kind of somewhat similar to like Heroic, back in the Danish Heroic, obviously with cadiaN, where everything just felt like when they played well, they played so fucking well, right? It just felt perfect. And I feel like that's kind of similar to MOUZ now.
That kind of has to be the case with modern day Counter-Strike. I'm not trying to take away from them, but what you're depicting here is kind of how it has to be. I think that there's this perception that the in-game leaders are calling all the things all the time. But if they're doing that, then they're always looking at their radar. They're worried too much about the macro, and then they're not contributing in the server. Like that doesn't work in modern CS today. And especially in that situation, I was watching that round happen live, and he was the one who was in the chaos. It was like there's no way he could have he wasn't seeing the forest for the trees in that scenario, right? He was just willing in there to take fights. And on a seesaw map like that as well. Yeah. And I guess it's just the overall trust that the team has in each other right now. Striker, what's the go with Brollan? Is he still on loan? What do you mean about that?
Yeah, he is still on loan.
What's going on with that, man? They just won 400 grand. They won 500. They won 480 grand plus some fucking rev share in 2.5 weeks. Get him out of jail. Do what you got to do. Get Brollan out.
I am curious about what's going on with that, because we did ask him about it when we were in Belgrade, and he kind of skirted around the issue, like doesn't know what to say. And I'm not sure if that was because like it is up in the air, like about if they're going to be able to buy him out, or because he just doesn't want to say something without the org's approval or whatever it is. Like, it felt like a weird answer, so I'm not sure how to read it necessarily. I mean, it seems like it's just a normal buyout situation, that just hasn't happened yet. So I'm hoping that that's like not something that's just going to suddenly throw a wrench in things and they're going to have to find a new player.
Is this like a modern day mortgage? Like, is he going to have to pay this off for like 45 years or some shit? Like, what's going on with this? This is, have we ever seen anything like this in CS? The #1 team in the world with a player on loan for this long.
One of the worst teams in the world.
Yeah. Well, one of them.
They're not the worst. I'm just joking. It's just a joke.
Well, Nork reckons they're cursed.
I'm joking.
But we've never seen anything like this, surely.
I mean, we had like teams with standings winning events. It was like, the
standings is different to a player being on loan for 6 months now.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
I mean,
like
maybe
4 months. No, 6 months. You're right.
When would he have joined? He joined around
late last year. It was before World Finals.
Last World Finals.
No. When he joined NIP was is Katowice around
22.
Katowice. We did the report. I remember. Yeah.
22.
Katowice 22.
Must have been 22. Yeah. Because 21 was.
So maybe his contract is out in like 6 months or so. If he signed a 3-year deal, it would be like a bit over 6 months. So I don't know. I feel like it would still need a buyout. So.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, like hasn't moved anywhere as far as I can tell. I don't think they've actually bought him yet and just haven't announced it or anything. That's curious.
Ugh.
Maybe they're just waiting to earn so much money that like it's not going to matter eventually.
Well, like MOUZ must have the money to buy him now.
I mean, probably, yeah. Especially like depending on the major, of course, but probably with the major and everything all together. I would imagine, why not?
Are we done being nice to MOUZ?
What do you want to talk about? Just no crowd again, or
do we do the caveats now?
You want to do studio merchants? Let's get into it.
Okay, well let's be real for a second. The core of this team literally grew up in studios. They were given the silver spoon of being in the We Play Academy, which was literally the studio environment, which is where they're winning their events in. That's what's happening, right? They're playing in that same environment where they were. MOUZ NXT in the We Play Academy were the gods. Didn't they win like 3 seasons or something?
4, I think.
Yeah,
but
they were.
3 of them are online though. Like.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
2 of the 4 were online, I think.
So we'll just go with 2 then. We'll just go with 2. But I think this will follow them around. It'll be the next thing that they have to get past. It's the next hurdle. Winning back-to-back best-of-5 finals against Vitality with ZywOo and Spirit with Donk is huge. The type of Counter-Strike, we were just talking all positive things about it. It's very good. But, I think that was like when we came out of the pandemic, I was talking about like soft entry then. Teams would get to start in studios before they made it to arenas and whatnot. And obviously the final frontier is the arenas, is the prestigious events, is your Katowices, your Colognes, the majors, the ones that have more weight to them, more gravitas to them because they've been won by legends of the past, and the people who win them now will be legends of the future. And to win in those type of environments is going to be the toughest thing. Again, I think one of the positives this team has for them is the fact that they are so young, so they have room and time to grow. I
think that it's also kind of like in this case, it's kind of to their detriment that their wins come so much on like confidence, not necessarily confidence plays. I don't want to call them like they're just running around like pug, but they're definitely playing very confident Counter-Strike, and you can tell that it's working because everybody's hitting their shots. Like I know that this is kind of like a cliche thing to say, but if you look at how they play, it really is like it just like flows from one person to another all the time. And it, like if you have Xerxen like averaging 130 ratings over 2 tournaments for them to win it as the guy who takes the most risks on that team, even beyond Stewie, like obviously you're going to have a easier time playing, And like what if suddenly like Xerxen doesn't do that? He just goes 105 at a tournament because just some of those early plays don't work out for him, Then even though he's not bad, he's not winning them rounds on his own, where he just like gets the first 2 entries and the round is over. Like it's just, they're just going to have to grind it out more. And that just means like other people will have to step up. And so like one person falling off will kind of cascade into everybody, into the whole system not working quite as well as it did until now. So like if not everybody is as confident as they are in these other situations, and without a crowd, without an arena, all that stuff, then it's just not going to work that way. And so it is a lot about like all of them do need to get up to speed pretty fast for them to be able to win it on in arenas.
Yeah, someone in chat just said that can be literally said about any aggressive player, and I think that that's true. But when you look at teams that we talk about that are good in those environments, the players that step up and are still making those same aggressive plays and are doing it with conviction are like your Reigns, right? Those type of guys that you look towards, and they're able to get away with those type of maneuvers. And the thing is, it's quite a fine margin when we talk about this, from making a play that you would in an environment where you're not feeling the pressure to making what looks to the viewer as the same or similar play, but there being hesitation, it being a suggestion as opposed to your idea, it being something that you think you should do.
Or even a move, like it's not even suggestion, like you just do it and then other people follow. And like, if you just have a slight moment of hesitation, like the whole thing falls apart, because like it's a second difference. You just don't take advantage of the fight that you are in advantage of. Like in the moment, it's just like confidence plays a massive part in that.
Well, yeah, because Counter-Strike, like we're obviously talking about minimizing risks, but I think the thing is when you make a play that is suboptimal, but it works out and you get a 3K, well, what you did was probably still a risk. You just like maximize the risk and it paid off.
I mean, what is who is Brokey? Like his plays and his like MVPs this year, whatever. He has one, but like previous ones as well. Like when he hits his flow state, they win. They usually win tournaments, right? And he's also the player we see make so many mistakes, right? And sometimes lose them rounds and games, at least partially games, right? No one player loses a game, but that's I mean, I'm 100% agreed here. I think it's like what Striker says, like they're really relying on it to have these like blowout victories, right? And then when we saw them not have blowout victories in playoffs, they actually had blowout losses. Like, and there's almost nothing in between where they would be like competitive in a losing game. And that's kind of the scary part of this MOUZ, their arena runs, right? They really struggle to even get into the game to have anything going for them. And it's a very almost black and white two versions of this team. And obviously they had the G2 win in playoffs as well. So it's not like they haven't shown some improvements like arena playoffs, but it's still, I think they have a lot still to prove. They have like realistically people calling them like arena merchants, like studio merchants. They are, until they win on a big stage, they are, and that's just how it is. But I do think they have enough quality that will shine through eventually.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when, though, right? Like, like that's the thing. And if anything is required to be a catalyst for that change, what will be the change? Is winning 2 back-to-back best-of-5 finals the step in the direction for that change? And they should probably be embracing this as a challenge. I don't think this is something that they should just pretend is not an issue for them, because until you've climbed Mount Everest, you haven't climbed Mount Everest, right? Like they need to be able to do it first. And how they get there, I don't know. I don't know how they get there and how we change before we get there. Someone in chat said, I am not convinced by this MOUZ roster until they win Dallas in front of the crowd. Well, they won in Chengdu against G2, right? But then it didn't go so well for them in the final.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like they are, like there's a problem with kind of this narrative as well, and which is partly that they've met FaZe a couple of those times where they lost in the where they got blown out of the server by FaZe, who have literally won like the last 10 series against them or whatever the stat is now. They haven't broken that streak yet. And so, of course, like if you keep meeting, and that is I want to say that is the most common matchup of this year, or at least of the last of CS2, I think, with MOUZ and FaZe at the top. I know it is for MOUZ for sure. Like that is their most common matchup by far. It was like 14 maps. And the second best was, or like FaZe is most common. And the second biggest is like 10 against Vitality or something like that, and 10 against Spirit. And that's also because they played like 2 best-of-5 finals against them. And so like it's hard to fault them for losing 2 series in a blowout to a FaZe in an arena. You know, like it's also like completely the other side of the coin where they are the guys who always turn up to the arena. They'll always be there. You know, they will never get blown out. So like if you put these two things against each other, then you basically just have like this year, the only series that they lost in a bad way that was not to FaZe in an arena was to G2 in the quarterfinals of the major.
Yes,
that was basically the only game outside of FaZe that they've lost.
And that was with the stage
so bad.
being rushed.
That's part of it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how much stock I want to put into that, but there's also that's also an extenuating circumstance, I guess.
I know that quite a few of the players on that team were really shook by that situation. Unfolding.
But it was also came at a time where it was kind of over already. Like it was already past the first after the first half or something of the second map. So it's like, you know, at the time that it came, I don't know if it would have changed anything if that didn't happen.
Was it second half of second map? Did it come that late?
Sure, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
yeah. They lost the first map like by some margin already, and I think it was like either during the first half or after the first half. I don't remember now exactly.
I think maybe it was just before the first half.
No, I don't think so. I think it was. But anyway, that doesn't matter necessarily. But the point being that like, okay, we're putting them up against the best team in the world that reached 6 finals in a row. You know that always turns up in arenas, and they got blown out twice by that team and never won a series against them, regardless of where they played, if it was in a group stage or not. So like with that caveat in mind, you know, maybe it's not such a massive narrative that people also make it out to be. You know, of course, like they have to do it in an arena for us to believe them, but it's not like they haven't done anything in arenas before. So like from all these aspects, you know, there's also a consistency to it. Like you're not always going to turn up like you do in studios, I'm sure, but you know, if FaZe is the team you meet, then you're gonna have a hard time.
I want to add another nugget to that FaZe conversation, because not only is it like a mental block from MOUZ going up against them, it's also the confidence that FaZe have playing against MOUZ.
Yeah,
like that's a one-way street, and it's all one way for FaZe. Like they're dominating that mental game, so that's also a bridge that MOUZ will have to cross. And unfortunately for them, they don't play FaZe in the group stage of Dallas. They would only play FaZe in the playoffs of Dallas. So because they're in different groups. So that right there is a drama for them too. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But this tees us up perfectly, Lucas, for our What Are the Odds? Brought to you by 1xBet. And this week's question is, drum roll please, MOUZ can win a big crowd LAN event this year. And it's this year. So we have to put our odds on whether we think MOUZ can win a big crowd LAN event this year. And then what we'll do is we'll give our odds, each individual, we'll add them together, we'll find the average, and you at home get to, I guess, you know, nod your hat one way or the other on if you agree with us or if you don't. So
I'm just
going
to say that, like, I'm just going to go through the events just to set this up, like, in context, you know, how much of a chance they're actually going to have to play like big crowd LANs, you know. So Dallas is obviously the next one. They're not playing
London.
in Blast. They are playing EWC, but that's not going to be a big crowd LAN. At least we're assuming. I don't think it's going to be anything like, I don't think that will count to this discussion anyway. After that, it's Cologne, then possibly fall final, because Pro League is going to be in the meantime, depending on if they qualify through Showdown. And then it's Rio if they go there, and then the major. That should be it.
Because world finals for Blast is going to be
again
in the Middle East
probably,
again,
I would imagine. Yeah, that's at least the assumption. But that's also another one if it ends up being somewhere else. 4
events.
So again, Dallas, Cologne, possibly fall final, Rio major, up to 5. Let's say 4 to 5 maybe.
Why did I use 2 hands to do 5?
I don't know.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So wait, if I would set high percentage if I think they can, and low percentage if I don't think they can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Math is hard.
I want to go with 42%. Thank you.
Okay, why 42%? Can you just give a bit of reasoning?
I thought 40 would be a bit low, so I went 42%.
That was my baseline as well. I'm like 40 for 4 events. That's 4 or 5 events. That seems pretty okay. I don't know.
Because I haven't seen them do it.
Yeah, right.
I had 50%, 50%, bang on 50% for me. I think this
they either will or they won't.
Yeah. What a banger.
Shit.
No, I think maybe I'm being a bit optimistic. Obviously, like it seems like, oh, they're playing really good, blah, blah, but there's not that many opportunities realistically. And things can change, and there's a few really good teams out there that could, even if they are playing good, can still stop them, right? They could be, you know, the second best team of the year without winning a big arena land. That's possible. And I think they are right now in the contention for, you know, top 3 for sure over the year. So I want to say I believe they can turn it around. I don't think they have some like huge mental block that can't be overcome.
Okay. Dacha?
I'm trying to come up with a scientific way about this, and I really should have done ahead of time, and I didn't, because I was going to look at what their odds are to win Dallas, and I was going to like base it kind of on that. But let's say there's 16 teams. They're kind of so that would be like on average, that will be what, 6% per team. They're obviously much higher than that. So let's say 15% for MOUZ to win for Dallas, and if I multiply that by four events they're going to play where they're going to have between 10 and 15% chance to win, I'll end up at 50%. So I will go with that too.
So it's going to be less than 50% because of my 42%,
yes.
I suppose. Well. Look, I think there's some people in chat, non-believers. Here's the thing, guys. You know,
we should maybe add a fourth one for, you know, the chat in the future. Do a little poll.
Yeah, see what they're thinking. That wouldn't be a too bad of an idea. Now, look. What, right now?
Let's do it. Let's do it if we can.
Add it right now if you can. See what the people at home are. What do they give percentages? What do we give them?
Yes or no, and then we calculate
and we tally it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now look, guys. I would consider myself to be agnostic. I don't know if there's a higher being or not, but until someone proves to me that there is, I'm just going to stay here in the middle ground, right? And also, aliens. I'd like to think aliens are real, because if we're the only species in the entire galaxy, like / universe, let's go with universe, not galaxy, that kind of sucks too, you know? But until I see aliens or evidence of aliens, I'm probably going to lean on the side of, you know, 50% or less chance that there are aliens. So the chances of everything in this world is 50-50. Yeah.
Okay, we have like 30 seconds until we get the chat.
Is this Jerry? Remember, guys, if the more you type in chat, the better it is that we can take your metrics to the sponsors to pay my salary. And let's just say that it's going up. So keep on spamming, because it's getting expensive out here.
Sorry, the inflation is...
MOUZ have 6.0 for IEM Dallas on one of the betting sites. I'm not going to name it, but just what is 6.0 in odds? Real odds.
I don't know.
Real odds calculator.
All I know is,
I'm just going by my what is it? 6.0.
Oof. Chat is giving 65. Look at these romantics in chat.
How can you give 65% on a team that's never won in a big arena, winning in a big arena?
People believe, chat. And I'm starting to believe too.
Oh, MOUZ, stop lying, my man.
Okay, so these are the final odds. So yes, 52%, aka 1.92, and then 208 for no. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm curious what the community is going to pick, but there's about 100 euros in the potentially going in the pot for the end of the year.
So
we're in a pretty similar, similar boat.
It'll be interesting. All right. Let's have a look. Let's see what people come to the conclusion of. All right. Well, that was What is the Odds? Brought to you by OneXBet. That was fun. A nice, interesting way to do the conversation. All right. We've got a couple more little tidbits to talk about before we finish the show for this evening. IEM Dallas. Let's do a couple of these kind of, we don't have to be quick, but let's bring some energy here for these ones. Answer me this one. Okay. How do I do this? And I'm trying to try and be nice. I don't want to talk about the Stewie element in G2. I want to talk about why G2 made this decision.
Oh, why they went for Stewie?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. That's an open question.
I thought you're like, you have an opinion and you're
No,
like,
I have no
okay, I'm going to
opinion.
say it now.
It's pointless. Can G2 not go to the event and we replace them with someone who actually has a roster?
It's pure content.
Okay, sick.
I
All
don't
right,
know.
cool.
I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that seems like the most
How
plausible.
about answer C, vibes?
But
How about vibes?
I don't get the point. What is the point of the event? Like Nico, after their last event, went off to Dubai for a holiday.
Yeah.
Like what? They're obviously then they don't they
They're
have
not going to
London
take it
after?
seriously. Like it's just, I think.
But they have London a week later.
Yeah.
So what are they practicing with Hooksy now? They're obviously not practicing with Stewie. So they're going to go to the event to play because what? The partnership agreement says they have to. Doesn't that suck
Probably.
for everybody?
I don't think they have to.
I think.
Well, then why are they going?
Like if they didn't know until
For revenue
they committed,
shares?
I think until they knew that they committed. No, I think they literally have to. There's like a thing in the Louvre agreement where you probably have to suffer a massive penalty if you don't.
But
Let's say that.
I don't, but this wedding or whatever Hooksy is having.
His sister's wedding or something, right?
These weddings usually don't happen.
They're
in
planned
like a
ahead of
month.
time, right? But the problem is like you make the decision on where
Commitments.
to make
Yeah.
commitments on where to go as a partner team, and I think they made it as a partner team, not as an invited team. Let me see. Yeah, they made it as a. No, they didn't make it as an
Steve
invite.
says, Joker Steve from Team Liquid says they do not have to.
Okay, fair
There you
enough.
go.
Because they are actually a ESL ranking, not a partner.
In my
slot.
opinion, this is G2. I mean, when you go, then you get the percentage of the revenue share, right? And you get some prize money and shit. But revenue
Do
share
you get
goes to
rev
the org.
share for this type of event?
All
Yeah,
ESL
every
events.
ESL Pro Tour
events.
events, you get some rev share as a partner.
So I
team
think,
that you
in my opinion,
attend.
that's it.
Fuck, you think
That's
me as the CEO of EFG would know that? That's crazy that I don't know that.
And
I
the
thought-
Count Duke of Malta as well.
Yeah, but I thought they came in as a partner. That's why they had to commit. But obviously, yeah, that seems weird that they just committed anyway.
But what's the point, guys? What's the point of them being
I
there?
told you, just fucking pure content. Stewie 2K is gonna get all the American support behind. They somehow luck it
Sell
out
more
to the fucking.
jerseys.
They're somehow luck it out to the playoffs. Like that's gonna happen just like randomly because they're playing Falcons first. Then they're gonna just like luck out the win against Vitality because Zaiwu has a fucking food poisoning. I don't know what's gonna happen, but like something like that's gonna happen. They're gonna make it to the playoffs. Stewie 2K is gonna go in front of the crowd.
They're gonna carry him.
G2. That's all that is.
How do they get
Pure
out of the
luck.
group? How do
Pure
they get out
luck.
of, how
Let
do they get out of
me
this
let me look
group?
at the group. Can you pull out the
MOUZ?
group?
Yeah, I'll link it. I'll link it. I'll
They have
read
Falcons
it. Right.
first, and on their side is Vitality and Monty, and then on the other side is MOUZ, 9Z, Complexity, Liquid.
Yeah.
And they basically have to win against, let's say, at least two of these teams if they go through the upper bracket, but probably three.
Unless Sean Monash drops 35 kills every game, they're not getting out of this group.
Also, like, who's in game leading?
Next up.
Is it just, what if it's Nico?
I sent a message to Nico asking. He didn't reply.
I mean,
What's-
it should be,
it just-
honestly, like, obviously should be Nexa. Like, realistically, imagine if it's Stewie 2K, they're just going to be like, full, whatever.
But doesn't stuff like this cheapen the event? Like the same thing if
It
Heroic
does.
can't get Degster, that
It
cheapens
does.
the event. Like I
It
don't care
does.
about them anymore. I don't care because G2's results in this event mean nothing other than the results in this event. So the only good outcome is the version that you just painted, Striker, where Stewie plays 2018, 2019 level Counter-Strike. The vibes are so good in G2. Nico's popping off. Monacy's carrying. Hunter's hitting all the lurks. Nex is winning all the clutches. Taz is doing his dance on the stage. The crowd's going nuts. They verse MOUZ in the final. MOUZ shit the fucking bed because they're studio merchants, and G2 win, and everybody is chanting USA and then singing the national anthem. That's the only way that this is worth anybody's time. It's not worth anybody's time otherwise.
Truth.
It means nothing in the grand scheme of things at Counter-Strike. It means nothing for G2. It means nothing for anybody. What's the point?
Because that's exactly it. Like, imagine imagine if,
Someone in chat said, so JKS cheapened FaZe's win. He just compared JKS
Damn.
and Stewie 2K. And I want to say,
Damn.
and I think this is where you say, keep JKS's name out of your filthy mouth.
That's buckled me there. That's actually buckled me there. No, I can't count
But Chad
that.
just
He's
said
right.
like that's the only way that actually like fulfills any meaning in this event for G2, right? If they actually do well. They're not.
Yeah.
They're probably.
But you know why
most likely
also?
they're not. But
Because
let's
now
say they might.
Stewie's in Dallas, and we can get him for the podcast, and
But-
then he can see me play finally.
Yeah. But imagine what it would be for Hooksy as well. Like this could be really bad for him. Like let's say they do well without him. Like he's just gonna slot into all the Hooksy roles. He's just gonna do better at them because he can be a better fragger, whatever, like who knows? Maybe he's just gonna slot in, it's gonna be all fine. Nexa's just gonna call the same strats. They're just gonna give Stewie the lowdown. Just go run into the side for us, please. And they're just actually gonna do well. Like imagine if you're Hooksy in that situation where you're just that easily replaceable.
Ah man, I
like this has the potential to be really bad for G2 as well, like in general. Like
well, it's not good.
Or at least for him. I don't know if G2 in general.
It's just overall, it just like I said, it doesn't really add anything, and it makes the event, in my opinion, just meh. Like
I mean, realistically, they're not making playoffs, and playoffs are still
true,
potentially really good with like MOUZ,
vitality, complexity, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Liquid, Crazy Run on the other side, FaZe,
Navi,
Spirit,
Spirit. There's there, of course.
You know, I think when you get to playoffs, we have 6 really good teams. So I'm not too worried about it.
Okay.
All in all, it is kind of a bummer to have stand-ins because otherwise, like this usually Dallas is kind of meh because it's in a weird timing, but now it's not like right after the major, so it's pretty stacked, I would say, in terms of not a Cologne and Katowice event, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's like Astras are the only. Well, Astras didn't even. Well, I guess they did skip it. I don't know how it works exactly, like with the partner slot and whatever.
Yeah.
But
I
guess they didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, they were probably lower ranked at the time.
What are the chances? Like the degster thing you said about heroic. How touch and go is that?
Not sure. I mean, it just like for a while it seemed like it was just like going to be up in the air because he only joined like fairly last minute, and as a Russian to get a visa for the United States, I think there's a bit of a process. So
yeah.
From that, I can't say.
But VP have Russians, Spirit have Russians.
No, but they
it's more
obviously
about
knew
like you need to
long
do
time
it
ahead
in
of
advance.
Yeah, exactly. Like they knew ahead of time.
You probably need to go back to Russia. I'm not 100%, but like for a bunch of visas, you need to go to like a specific embassy, and like I think the one in Serbia, obviously there's a lot of Russians there, is going to be like packed and hard to get an appointment. So
yeah,
okay,
tricky.
Well, so what were we saying? You're saying Vitality G2, not G2, Vitality Complexity / Liquid MOUZ coming out of that group, and then what FaZe?
Spirit Navi. I mean, that would be an amazing playoff.
That would be pretty good, yeah. I'm interested to see how FlyQuest do. They're going to have a really fucking tough draw.
I was gonna say, like, we were kind of discussing the storylines for this event, and I'm like curious about if FlyQuest can at least keep being competitive. They kind of got blown out last time by the like really good teams. They were competitive against the kind of like the top 20 to top 10ish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then whenever they met somebody actually like top, they kind of got blown out. So
they went back to Oz as well. I'm surprised they didn't stay in Europe to boot camp.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's probably going to happen to Spirits. But then they're going to have like some of these teams, like imagine
it'd be big if
you have Big down there, you have M80 Heroic that's kind of weakened. Then Virtus Pro, who's not like in the best shape at the moment. Like there's a world where they can make a decent run even if they get blown out by Spirit in the first round. So yeah, I mean maybe not playoffs, but like another top 8, I could imagine them getting.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just want to like. I think it's really tough to go from. They had a boot camp before Pro League, but to go back from Oz and straight to Dallas, it kind of. And I know that they have a hard initial opponent, but it's hard to be in form.
Right.
And you start with the best of 1, so I do worry about them there. So we'll have to see how that one translates. The heroic one, I would like to see more, but we don't. VP is an interesting one, isn't it? They're not really. Do we? Okay, let me stand back.
Also, yeah.
I want to just stand back a second for VP. Prof, when you've been indoctrinated into cults in the past,
yeah,
because I know you've been in plenty of those. How long did it take for them for you to get unbrainwashed?
Not to get brainwashed, but to after.
Well, because right now, they've realized that there's another way to play Counter-Strike. Because Electronics come in and he's brought the teachings of the broader world. So this is, basically, let's
brought
pretend.
The fire.
Yeah, VP are like Australia, and they only know what's going on. They don't know about the rest of the world. They have no idea. They don't have like anything. And right now, the indigenous Australians. And right now, it's like Christopher Columbus is electronic. He's just landed on the beaches. This could be really insensitive, but regardless, it's about coming over and bringing the new ideas.
Chris is canceled now, so just so you know.
I didn't know
Sorry to
that.
inform you.
Fuck, I had no idea. But electronics brought new ideas. So how long is it going to take for them to get these new ideas and actually be able to run with them, or are they fucked?
There's also some like rumors flying around VP. Like there's
no, not more rumors.
Yeah, there's enough there that it seems like there's at least something going on. Hard to say. Like it's more about coaching rather than any of the players.
About Dustin, being replaced by the guy from Nine Pandas, right?
By Toma, yeah. That's like the biggest rumor, and it seems like there's something there, but we'll see where that develops. Man. But like with that in mind, like also that's what I said like at the beginning of this Virtus Pro run where they got the electronic. Like they had a really busy schedule. Like they are going from event to event with a few days in between at most. And so like if you go through a change like this, you're just not going to be able to get up to speed with each other. Like it's impossible, I think. You would have to start off really well and then just kind of ride the wave to do well at any of these tournaments. And they haven't really done that. They've done okay, but nothing extraordinary. And if anything, like it's pretty clear that there are issues with combining the two styles where like Electronic wants to call certain stuff and the rest of the team is maybe not ready for that yet. So like to combine all of these ideas, I think it's probably going to take until after the break. And we can't really expect much from VP until then.
I hate the idea of making more changes now. I think it's so wrong. Like I think
like in the time frame for the lead into the major, what are we talking?
I mean, before the break, like why aren't we giving enough time for them to actually like play together and figure out shit? And now we're gonna now we're gonna kick the coach that has been there for like years. Like why? What is the rationale behind that? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, unless it's like, oh, now we're gonna play the electronic style, but that doesn't make any fucking sense because he's not the IGL. He's not brought in to be the IGL. He should not. Yes, he can add stuff, but he should not be the one dictating how they're playing. Yeah. I don't agree with that. He should have some say, but at the end of the day, it should be like Jamie and Dastan be like, okay, we will incorporate this, but we won't do this. I think that's the wrong way to go around a team that has been
pretty successful.
Consistent. They've been pretty consistent overall. So just like blowing that up completely for one player doesn't make sense because you can. I was just looking at the stats a bit before the show, and you could see like Norbert this year has been amazing. Actually,
Norbert's the best esports player in the world, if you ask Harry Russell.
He is. He has been like performing so much better than he ever has. And in the roles that he's been playing, he's been like really good since Electronic came in. He's been, I don't want to say like back to like the kick Norbert, but he has been like bad. I would say underwhelming. Flit also dropped off significantly, and that was what we were talking about when this came in. It's like Flit was the guy that could do, more than anyone else on this lineup in terms of being aggressive and stuff like that. And he still is pretty aggressive, but less successful with Electronic coming in. So there's a bit of a clash there. So there's a lot of things that you need to figure out instead of focusing on like, okay, we played a few tournaments, had a lot of officials. And they're going to Dallas? ? No. Yes. So they have another tournament now. Yeah. They have so much going on. Like they need to play it out and then sit and like make an assessment. Okay, this worked. This doesn't work, and that's it. I think it's not useful quality sample size to make changes on.
Okay, fair enough. I can agree with that. I wanted to ask a question about FaZe. If you guys would humor me just quickly. Do we think the time that FaZe has had off between Pro League and Dallas will be enough to refuel the tank for the last two events of the season for them to go deep? Or do you think that they're probably still going to be a bit gassed?
I saw the Rops got a cat. I think that's a plus vibes. And
well, stroking a pussy makes everyone happy, Prof.
Not everyone.
True. Sad, but true.
You navigated that minefield beautifully, Prof. I like it.
Yeah. And so FaZe, Striker, what do you think?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
What do you think? Is FaZe winning or what?
You want me to rephrase the question?
I'm asking Striker. Is
I know. No, I'm just.
He's bamboozled by this question. This concept of FaZe being a favorite for a title is like, it's so weird. Like, I don't know what to say about this one. This is caught me off guard right here. He's still thinking about stroking pussy.
I don't know what to think about FaZe at the moment. It's been like if it wasn't for such a big blowout, but it was also like ZywOo, so it's like I don't know if I should think if I'm looking too much at that, but it was like at some point I had this like FaZe are just inevitable, like they're always going to make the finals, and suddenly that comes to an end and you're like going to lose that feeling. And it's not like there's any real analysis behind it for me. Like they got ZywOo in that series, so I don't know if I should necessarily put too much stock into it. Like they will still be competitive, I'm sure. Like they still will make the playoffs, especially from this group where they have like VP, Heroic as the best teams on their side, who are just fresh off changes, still not really up to par with like being a top team. So like they're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna meet MOUZ on the way, probably beat them as always, and everything's gonna be dandy. So I think they're gonna be at least in the fight for the title as always.
I guess that's basically it. Like M80, I'd like to see them have another decent performance. So they're going to have a tough team. So I just want to see them be competitive because I liked what I saw from them at Pro League.
MOUZ has been great. Like it's been great to watch.
Monty coming in with Stiko and Haji, which is an interesting combination over there.
They've been playing a bit online.
Yeah. I mean, considering all of the changes that Monty went through, they've been pretty competitive still. So that's nice.
That's where Monty made their name, though, with the grind of online.
Yeah. Boro, where is SDOI? Bring him back. I want to see him play.
Yeah, what's he up to? Yeah. I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens. There'll be plenty more news in the world of Counter-Strike, though. Okay, we happy? Everyone cool? Everyone got anything else to say?
I'm excited to see Dallas. That's it.
Yeah, okay. So people can head over to Eventbrite if you're going to be coming to IEM Dallas and you want to come for the HLTV Confirmed podcast. Just head over there. You can search HLTV Confirmed, and you find yourself some tickets. I believe there's a couple left, and that one's in conjunction with Liquid and Coinbase. So you guys can head over there and buy some tickets if you're interested. Shout out to the sponsors, One Expert, remember to gamble responsibly, and TradeIt.gg. If you're in the marketplace for skins, go and check them out. Lucas, who's been on the buttons this evening, producing, and
smooth show.
Yeah, everything went pretty straightforward. I thought everything was pretty good. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and contributing in the chat and being here and listening to us. And thanks to those of you who don't, have such polarizing, aggressive opinions, because we all have different opinions, just like assholes. And there's plenty of those on the forums. Good night.
Are you tired of your boring old skins? Head to TradeIt and trade them for exciting new ones within seconds. With 24/7 support, massive inventory, free giveaways, and low fees, TradeIt is the highest rated trading platform in the market. What are you waiting for? Start trading today for a $5 bonus, only on TradeIt.
Remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.